All right, we are live. What is up, everyone? It feels good to be back. I meant to stream um four now, but for whatever reason, I just wasn't feeling great, so I held it off until today. Hopefully I'll be back more frequently, but again, you can always count on the Wednesday, Friday. Those are really the best days for me, and I'll try to get other days and start doing other things and I don't know. It's fun. It feels good to start getting back into the groove of things. And I don't know because I stopped for a while, and for a little bit it was hard for me to like do like hour and a half, 2 hours. But now I can just do that easily. So as we keep going, we're just gonna do longer and longer shows because why not? It's fun. Why not just do something that I enjoy doing? It's fun talking about these things. It's fun going through these videos, and it's fun having discussions. So. Today I want to talk about Heraclitus. If you don't know anything about Heraclitus, he's a very interesting philosopher. I'm just looking for the book that I have. Pretty much all that he wrote, or all that survived that he wrote, is in this book right here. This little pamphlet almost, and it's not even so much like a dense text. A lot of it is simply just aphorisms, and half of the pages are like in showing the original Greek, like the other half is the obviously translation. And if you want to summarize Heraclitus very simply, just think about this one quote. The quote is, "You can never step in the same river twice. Both the man and the river have changed." And really, what this quote means is there's something that we cannot capture about the last moment. And there's something fundamental about this world, which is change, which is entropy, which is the fire of existence, as roughly Heraclitus would call it. And the more we can come to grips with that, the more we can move into our lives and age with grace and live with grace. Think, it's called Forever 21 because no one wants to grow up. It's like the Leaving Neverland, that not not the Michael Jackson documentary, like the Peter Pan idea of things. I don't want to grow up. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. It's that sort of thing.
You never step in the same.
This is Eisen Einzelganger. I'm not even gonna try. Good channel. I enjoy it. He has good stuff. Um,
Same river.
he posted this like a few weeks ago, and I meant to go through it because I was like, oh my God, I've been talking about Heraclitus so much. Why not? Why not watch this video and talk about him some more?
Twice. These words are attributed to Heraclitus, who claimed that everything is in constant flux. The river changes continuously. What appears to be the same watercourse from one day to the next is, in reality, a different river altogether. And can't we also say that about the world around us, our lives, and even ourselves?
And I think this is something that I keep coming back to. An idea I keep finding in a lot of things that I've been studying is how change just occurs, how change just is, and it's something that most people deny and most people fight against, something that you can never win against. You can never beat the sands of time. You can never beat old man. What is it? What do people say when a athlete gets father time? Father time. I don't know why I'm not I don't know, I feel off today. I feel like I'm not like firing on all
Aren't we
cylinders.
also in a constant process of becoming, never the same from birth to death, only for our remains to turn into something else? Everything is changing all the time, according to Heraclitus, a pre-Socratic philosopher who, when looking at the cosmos, saw this ongoing interplay of forces, elements, and matter. The changing nature of.
Another big idea he had was an idea that I always come back to, and it's the necessity for good and bad, the necessity for a juxtaposition, the coming of the waves and the waves coming back. That sort of idea of things that without one side you don't have the other. Without light, what is dark? Without dark, what is light? We need both to even understand the difference.
Everything seems obvious to most of us, but for some reason, we still tend to fall into the illusion that some things are unchanging. We often take the presence of certain people in our lives for granted. We believe that our success in career and business never ends, and that many people in the West don't give much thought to the fact that peace and stability don't come naturally.
And the interesting connection with like sort of spiritual things is like literally Eckhart Tolle, I think that's how you say it. He made a whole career about the idea of living in the present, of living in the now, of not clinging on to the past, of not projecting yourself into the future, of existing in the moment. And it has this really, really, really definite carryover with this sort of idea. It's that when you can accept change, then you can go with change. And it's much easier to go with the current than it is to go against the current. And you can direct yourself if you go with the current. You cannot fight against the current. You cannot fight against nature.
Recently, I made a podcast episode about Heraclitus' philosophy, including his idea of pantarei, or everything flows. And it surprised me how his seemingly basic ideas on change made me see life differently. This video won't be an in-depth exploration of Heraclitus and his philosophy. If you're interested in that, I would suggest you to listen to
Not much is known about him. He kind of like all of his writings kind of got lost except for this little bit. And I think it's somewhat like Socrates, like we understand him through other people talking about him as well. Um, that's that's my kind of summation of it, but interesting figure. But again, like even Socrates, do we know what we really know about Socrates, or was he dramatized by Plato's um, dialogues? Because Plato writes his philosophy in the form of dialogues, and it's basically a conversation between people and Socrates. And is he trying to tell you something, or is he trying to explain Socrates' beliefs, or is he somewhat dramatizing it? Is he somewhat building up a personality that really wasn't there? And Socrates is really interesting though, because he didn't believe in writing. He didn't believe that you could portray ideas very well through writing. And that's why we don't have anything written by him, simply for that reason. And there's certainly something to it because think of the oral tradition of the works such as the Odyssey, the Iliad, the Aeneid, the Epic of Gilgamesh, all sorts of stories like this that were passed down from generation to generation. And to this day, these books carry a mythos, they carry a world, they carry a perspective that if you really read into, you can gain a whole lot of wisdom from. And there's certainly something to be gained through average conversation versus reading something off the page. You kind of lose the human element. You lose the adaptability. You only have it in a definite form. It's an interesting argument.
the podcast episode linked below. Instead, it's an effort to expand upon his main ideas of change and flux and their implications for our lives. My name is Stefan. This is not an AI voice. I'm a real person. Subscribe to my newsletter on Substack to stay updated on all my
I didn't think about it, but he kind of does have like an AI sort of voice. But this channel's been around for a while. It's a very good channel. He talks about a lot of interesting stuff.
content. You can also support my work on Patreon and find my books on Amazon. Thank you, and I hope you'll enjoy this video.
Let's
It
music.
doesn't matter how hard
I can't really tell since I played that music.
we
I'll just cut
try
out that
to
part.
hold on to something, there will always be a time when the fires of change transform it into something else. Heraclitus believed
Think of like thermodynamics, like heat is just always leaving the system. You can never get back to the exact conditions that you were once in, and it's futile for you to even begin to try. And I think this is a harsh reality, a really hard pill to swallow, that like people don't really want to grasp. Because like there was times in my life where I was like, oh well, if only I could have done this in this scenario, if only I could have done this. And it's like all that's doing is bringing past experiences into the present. All that's doing is making me upset and making my active life worse versus me learning from that mistake, me learning from that time in my life where I didn't have all the answers. Because you're never gonna have all the answers, and it serves you nothing to go back and feel guilt and feel shame. If you learn from it, if you move on from it, if you grow from it, then you have nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, it's It's a badge of honor because it's an experience that got you to become a better person. And it's very weird how we don't oftentimes reframe it in this way, but it's a difficult thing to do. The most difficult thing you could ever do in your life is to be introspective. Because to be introspective is to admit that you have a role in your own existence. And for many of us, we don't live the existence we want to live. So, of course, it's going to be very difficult because you don't like everything about your life, but you are a direct responsible factor for that. And it's like, once we start accepting that fact, then we can start changing. But it's a really difficult thing to look at your life and look at it from an outside perspective and understand I'm wrong a whole lot more than I am right. And where do we go from here? And how do we go from here? How do we move forward in a better direction?
That fire was the fundamental principle of change, though we don't know whether he meant literal fire or fire as a metaphor.
It's definitely a metaphor, but it's a useful sort of metaphor allegory to the way things are because the flame is always changing. The flame can never be in some way recaptured. You can't hold on to it. The moment you try to hold on to it, it's already gone. That sort of
What
thing.
is clear is that he saw fire as a transformative force, constantly changing what it touches, like a blacksmith using its power to shape raw metal into tools. At the same time, Heraclitus is famous for using a metaphor that's pretty much the opposite of fire: the ever-changing river. The river always flows. Its content is never the same. And so you never step into the same river twice. The river that was a minute ago isn't the same one anymore at this very moment. Although we can
And this is the weird thing too, because think you're holding yourself responsible and you're making yourself feel guilty for things people have done to you in the past or things that you've done in the past, but you're different. Given that same situation, you probably make a different decision. So why are you judging yourself? Why are you shaming yourself? It's the same with other people. We like to cling on to things in the past, and maybe somebody really wronged you, but to hold on to that anger, to hold on to that rage, it only allows them to continue to hurt you. It only allows them to continue to affect your life. It's very weird where you like have like somebody that like I've had friends that have like breakups and you could tell like years later they're still thinking about that person. And even if they're not thinking about that person, they're somewhat unconsciously being guided by that idea that, well, I need to become better so that this person has the possibility of taking me back and then maybe in some weird way I'll find this out. It's so weird when you think about it. It really is. It's like if you want to get revenge on somebody, forgive them for what they did to you because to seek revenge is to destroy yourself and no one else.
can't be entirely sure. From what I've learned, many interpreters understand the river as a metaphor for reality, understood as a process of continual becoming. It's the world around us, people, relationships. Everything is always changing. All is constantly flowing.
Think of like Emerson's idea of the oversoul where we're all part of like this one game and we're all somewhat connected. Somewhat Spinoza's idea of God in that there's something that will replace you and that something will be comprised of what you're comprised of and you did the same thing. You took the place of some other form of matter. Everything that comprises you was one something else. That sort of idea of things, kind of this cosmic order, this almost this Taoist idea of things, almost this Taoist idea of everything's connected and everything is part of something larger. That's kind of the air that you get from Heraclitus.
Or how Plato summarized Heraclitus' ideas on change. Panta rei, meaning everything flows. The notion that our total reality is always changing, thus that there's no fixed, unchanging aspect to it, has huge implications. And in many ways, this ontological reality, i.e., how things really are, clashes with our perceptions of it. We may see things as unchanging. Things may look solid in the human eye, but in reality, nothing is solid. There was a philosopher who contested this idea of flux, though. His name
This is so funny because this is just going to be like the Aristotelian wrist Platonic idea of
was
forms,
Parmenides, and he challenged
which is basically just things are, things are not. That's the easiest way to explain it. What you see is not everything is the Platonic idea of forms. What you see is everything. Think of like if you're going to model a system, if you're going to do a math problem, you have to know the variables, and those variables are set. Where in reality, there's things that you don't account for. There's subtle differences in center of gravity. There's centers. There's air resistance. There's I don't know why. I don't know what I was trying to say. There's differences in just things that are outside of your control. And that's basically Plato's idea of things is that we somewhat idealize things through our observation.
Challenged Heraclitus with a truly mind-numbing philosophy, arguing that
Very similar to Schrodinger's cat. It's so weird how these ideas kind of just are all the same, packaged in a
all
different way.
change is an illusion. I'm currently studying his philosophy and hope to explore it in a future video. But for now, let's follow Heraclitus and his idea that everything is in flux. A view that, in many ways, aligns with our current understanding of reality. Yet, in the face of this constant change, we observe a curious human tendency. We project stability onto what is actually changing, whether
Think of like there's going to be a day and age where nobody knows who Napoleon is, where nobody knows who Caesar is, where people forget Alexander the Great. And it's like most of our outward striving is for things of this world. It's a somewhat contradictory problem. It's like if everything's going to be erased one day, then why are you doing things that are going to be erased? Why don't you do things for the only thing that can't be taken away, which is your soul, which is your spirit, which is the feeling you get from a day of work where it didn't feel like work.
driven by a desire for certainty or a fear of change, this is where things become difficult for many, myself included. An example of this projection I've struggled with myself is the illusion of ongoing youth. Growing up, going from child to adolescent to adult, we slowly begin to realize that we don't have all the time in the world, even though it may seem so at times.
It's this is like weird how this is a bad thing though, because it's like, don't you want to have like this is what Kierkegaard talks about in the concept of anxiety, is that the fact that we don't live forever is the exact thing that makes us do anything. And without this idea, we wouldn't we wouldn't get out of bed. We would absolutely do nothing. And it's weird that it's kind of like this thing that we cling on to. We all want to be young, we all want to be healthy, we all want this, we all want that. It's like death, aging, infirmity. It's just it's something that's going to be there one day. It's like to run from that fact is to hide from that fact, and to hide from that fact is to be afraid. And why would you be afraid of nature? Why would you be afraid of something that you know is coming? I'm not saying that you shouldn't take care of yourself, but I'm saying it's like the acceptance that it's going to come allows you to prepare for it, allows you to be okay with it, allows you to come to terms with it. Whereas if you run from it, you'll always be behind the game. You'll never be able to come to grips with it.
The old people stumbling on the streets, seniors sitting on park benches, my grandparents. When I was young, I saw these people just as a bunch of, well, old people. I didn't see myself in these older people, as if they were another species. Old age, for me, was a reality I couldn't identify with. It was alien, almost unreal.
I don't know. Once I started losing my hair, I was like, yeah, old age.
But today, I can actually identify with these
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I'm okay with it because I'm just like I already kind of look older than I am.
older people because I realize I am becoming one, and they are the same as me, just at a different stage of being human. For many, the reality of aging
Seneca said something along the lines of, as I grow older, my days grow more important because I have less of them. So because I'm older, the time I spend with people is way more valuable because I don't have as much. And it's like you could always spin things in these ways. You could always reframe things. You could always find the silver lining in it. It's just a matter of if you want to look for them.
Can be difficult to accept at times, yet it's such a natural part of the human condition, a process of birth, aging, and death. But if nothing is fixed and everything is constantly changing, what does this mean for who we are? What becomes of our identity? If nothing remains the same, can there truly be such a thing as a stable self? When we look at ourselves, what do we see? Do we see an unchanging person with fixed characteristics?
And I think to a certain degree, yes, to a certain degree, no. Like most of these questions are yes and, not yes or no. Like I think to a certain extent, you have to have some approximation of who you are, of your capabilities, but you're also somewhat malleable. And there's this who said it? I think it was Robert Anton Wilson. He said something along the lines of like people that like refuse to change have already died. And there's certainly something true to that. Like think of the people that their whole lives have stayed in the same town, their whole lives have done the same thing and believed the same things and been with the same people and in no way did they progress. In no way did they really live life. In no way did they really experience any new things. And it's like you're like an animal in a zoo. Like you may have a cushy life, you may have everything you need, but did you really live it? Did you push it to its limits? Did you fail while daring greatly, as Teddy Roosevelt said? I
Or
was looking for
rather,
the
a
quote.
process, always in motion? And does our changing nature makes us, as individuals, difficult to grasp and hard to identify? Or is it the very core of who and what we are? From Heraclitus' view, everything is a process, even though it may not seem so. Marriage is a process, a mountain is a process, a building is a process. All these things
There's this idea in like when you look at building materials, like the engineers that work on them, you can't make something last forever, but you can reduce its corrosion. You could reduce its forces. You could in some way make it last longer. Like you already know that the thing is going to one day decay, but it's just a matter of when. Even the sun's going to burn out one day. Even the earth is going to stop spinning one day. Like these things exist. It's just it's at some point everything dies. At some point everything is going to end. And then what comes out of that?
are always in flux. Just consider a major landmark, such as the Autograph Tower in Jakarta, which I happen to have a nice shot of on my hard drive. This immense skyscraper may seem solid, but it's also flowing. It's subject to decay, always changing from the inside and outside, and will eventually disappear. Now, the fact that even a massive building is always in flux, doesn't that undermine the identity of things? Like, if someone or something is always changing, can we even speak of an identity? Isn't identity something?
And there's something very profound at this. It's like, why are you judging somebody for what they did? Why are you condemning them if you don't know who they currently are? Obviously, there's no rule of that an exception. If you do something awful, I may find it difficult to forgive you, but think of like the minor gripes you have with people. Think of the things that happened years ago. Do you really think that person intentionally did that? Do you really think that person is still harboring malcontent to you, or do you think that you've grown and they've grown and maybe you can forgive them? And that's really the power in this idea. It's that we take things so serious, but things are far less important than we make them to be. When you make something important, you make it enslave you. You cast chains upon yourself because you give something the level of importance and this attention in your head, and you think about it all day, and it becomes worse and worse and worse. But most of these things are impermanent. Most of these things are going to one day subside, and what's going to remain is you. And I don't know, I choose to spend my time doing things that I enjoy doing, being creative, being expressive, understanding myself, thinking about things, and trying to remove myself from things that don't develop me, trying to remove myself from the situations that I don't think are really conducive to what I really want to become and who I really want to be.
Fixed. Isn't it a firm set of criteria, a set of facts of what something or someone is? For example, I identify as a human being, which means I have certain traits: an ability to speak, a body hair, muscle mass, and so forth. These traits make me human, right? Heraclitus probably wouldn't disagree, but he would remind us that on an ontological level, the object or being we set apart from other phenomena, a human in this case, is not a fixed entity, but a process. And
It's an interesting way of putting it. Not a fixed entity, but a process, a temporary cycle. It's a very good way of putting this
here it
idea.
comes, this ever changing process is the very reason why a human is a human. We as humans are born, grow up, learn, adapt, develop inwardly and outwardly, grow.
As Khalil Gibran said, every sorrow deepens your joy. And it's this, if you didn't have to die, if you didn't have to experience pain, if you didn't have to experience hardship, then you couldn't experience happiness. It's like imagine living forever and having an accomplishment. Well, you'd have to stack that up against everything else that you've ever done. And at a certain point, you have so much experience that you're bored. You become bored because you could do everything. The fact that our life is limited, the fact that we have a certain amount of days left on the world is, oh, we gotta make the most of it. What can I do today? I want to do this. I want to do this. You can only devote yourself to so many things before your time runs out. So it gives a finiteness to it. You're like an artist creating your masterpieces before you die. That sort of thing.
Old, fall ill, and eventually die. These changes define a human. Without change, we wouldn't even exist. Our identity is based on change. The same goes for something like marriage. A marriage seems something fixed, and in a way, it is. It's meant to be a permanent commitment. But the content of the marriage is always in flux. A marriage
I think when people first get married, they're very happy, but then they start to become content. They don't put as much effort into it. They don't have the same sort of compassion for that person. They change as a person and they grow out of that marriage. And that's why so many marriages are failing because I think we have social media, we have all this instant dopamine, all these things that make the grass seem greener, but the greatest thing you could do is develop a relationship with a person, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a familial tie, whether it's a marriage or some sort of long-term commitment. Like that's truly the best thing that you could ever give to anybody is your friendship, is your attention, is your time. That's your greatest gift. There's that saying that like if you're not paying for the service, then you're the product. And really, what does that mean? That means that they're monetizing your attention. Your attention is valuable to somebody, but it's not valuable to yourself because you're not giving it to the people in your lives. It's a very weird idea to start playing around with.
is full of highs and lows. Moving house, switching jobs, changing social circles, getting children, beautiful moments, and crises.
Getting children.
Heraclitus would argue
Getting children is the funniest way. Getting children. Sounds like you just like took them off the street or something. That's that's such a funny way to say.
that this continual change is what makes marriage marriage. It grants it its identity. Going back to the river metaphor, we see that change is the ontological basis of a river. If the river didn't flow as it does, it would be a lake or a pond. But it's a river because it flows from one point to another. So identity exists through change, not despite it. So far, we have explored the ever
This is interesting because this is an idea that you see repeated by Blake, by obviously Heraclitus, by the Taoists, Emerson, I'm assuming Walt Whitman. I feel like this is just like a central part to a lot of, I would say, more spiritual, less grounded sort of beliefs. And perhaps that's why they resonate with me so much because they all have this underpinning idea that everything is changing and that it's our ability to adapt to the change that gives any sort of purpose, gives any sort of meaning, gives any sort of value to things.
Ever flowing river as a metaphor for external reality and the implications of pantarai for our lives. We looked at forms of change we see in our daily lives and how change lies at the basis of identity. But the notion of all-encompassing change becomes even more interesting when we consider that our perceptions and experiences of reality are also always in flux.
Think, do you view your childhood the same way you viewed your childhood when you were young? Or has your lens slowly adapted? Have you slowly understood why people said things to you in a certain way? Have you understood certain aspects of your upbringing in a different context and they make a lot more sense now? And I think with our maturity and as we get older and as we start to see things, it starts to kind of fall into place. And the things that more or less I didn't like when I was younger, it makes sense now. It makes sense why they happened. It makes sense why things had to go in a certain way, why people took certain actions, and why people weren't able to maybe make better judgment. It just makes sense now.
You can never step into the same river twice, not just because the river is changing, but the people who step in it change as well. Even if the river were exactly the same, the you stepping into it now is not
I don't know why that cat's smiling made me
the
laugh like
you who
that.
stepped into it before. We've already discussed the changes in the body. Whether the body is something external to us or part of who we are remains a subject of philosophical debate. The Stoics, for example, regarded the body as largely beyond our control, while the mind was seen as the only thing truly within our power, and thus the only
Man,
thing we can truly
I think you can make an argument either way with this, but it's really just going to come down to semantics. Gurdjieff says something along the lines of like, in your path to gaining your consciousness and the path to your gaining control over yourself, you gain control of your mind, body, and emotions, and that's what he coined as the fourth way. Um, I don't know, whatever metaphor is useful to you, whatever way you want to understand it. I think things could be yes and that's what I said earlier, but
call our own. Yet the body and mind are deeply connected. What happens in the body often influences the mind and vice versa. For most people, the condition of their bodies plays a major role in how they perceive the world. Heraclitus pointed out the effect of bodily changes on our perceptions by saying, and I quote, "It is sickness that makes health pleasant and good, hunger, plenty, weariness, rest."
it is sickness that makes health pleasant and good. Hunger, plenty, weariness, rest. What he's saying here is very important because you don't know that you're healthy until you get sick. You don't know that you feel good until you feel bad. You can't understand you were hungry until you have that plate of food in front of you and you eat and eat and eat and eat like that sort of thing. It's like it's a very interesting kind of way of viewing the world, and I think there's so much truth in this.
As Heraclitus mentioned, when we're sick, health suddenly becomes very precious and desirable. But when we're healthy, we're often not that appreciative of it.
You accidentally read the title as haircuts because your barber did you dirty. Yes, mine did too, man. Mine did too. My barber is so bad that I'm bald now. Yes, blame it all on. I should just give out some random barber in my area's name so everyone stops going to him. Just slander. Yeah, if you don't want to have the hairline I have, don't go to this guy. That's funny. Quite the quite the Freudian slip there. I found myself I did this with something ridiculous the other day. I wish I could remember, but it was like really bad. Like I think I clicked on a video or something. I was like, this is not at all what I wanted. And I read the title. I'm like, this is something completely different. I'm such an idiot.
or longing for it. The same goes for hunger. When we're hungry, all we think of is food, and we tend to reduce the world to a potential source of nutrition. But when we're satisfied, we see our surroundings in a different light. So, going back to Heraclitus' metaphor, our internal states change how we see the river. Even if the river itself were unchanging, we would not step into the same river twice, for we ourselves are in constant.
So this is Robert Anton Wilson has this great saying, what the thinker thinks the prover proves. Now you have to go to school like this. Well, I have to go around every day like this, so who has it worse? I don't want to hear it from you that you can get haircuts. I can't. I know you just came here to rub it in.
Flux. By the second attempt, we have already become someone else. And the person we are in that moment can step into the river only then. For me, the idea that my moods and, therefore, my perceptions constantly change prompted a shift in awareness. Even though the occurrence of internal changes is pretty obvious.
Think if you're tired, somebody says something to you, you overreact, whereas they say the same thing to you when you're more relaxed, then it's not going to have the same effect. I feel like this is a very basic observation, but again, the basic observations are very difficult in a time where you're not rewarded to observe things. You're not rewarded to ask questions. You're not rewarded to think about things. You're rewarded to just follow the status quo. Just follow the leader. Follow what's in front of you. Can't imagine with hair. I mean, I also like I didn't have like as much. Well, did I have facial hair? I don't think I had facial hair that like connected when I had hair. So like I don't think I looked as good. And I kind of got lucky that my jawline developed more and like my face kind of like like how do I say it? Like it just suits me. That's really all I was trying to say. Like having no hair kind of suits me. I kind of got lucky. There's a lot of people that like shave their head and you're like, oh man, like I see why you kept it. But no, I know what you mean. But it's still like it would be great to have hair just for the fact that like my friends would have nothing to say to me because that's all they say to me. It's like I'll spend like 10 minutes just roasting them and all they say to me is you got no hair and it's like that's better than anything I just said. You know what I mean? Like it's like you don't have to try. It's so annoying. Like I'm like preying on their downfall. I'm gonna like put like I don't know if I should say it because some idiot's gonna take me serious. I should put like what's the thing that makes your hair fall out? Like is it Nair or something? I'm gonna put that in their shampoo just so they can know how I feel on a daily basis.
And I intellectually grasped it. After exploring Heraclitus, I couldn't help but see things differently. I began to notice these internal changes more and saw how even slight shifts in mood could influence my desires and aversions, as well as my judgments and estimations.
This is very important. It's to be aware of your habits. It's to be aware of what you're doing so that you can change them. That's really the important aspect of what he's saying. He's like he didn't notice this phenomena before, but now he's able to curtail it. Now he's able to control it. Like I know when I'm gonna get upset. So when I'm gonna get upset, I try to calm myself down. I try to remove myself from the situation. I don't want to say something that's gonna upset somebody because I've always had a temper. I've always had there's a point where I just don't care. I'm gonna burn bridges, and it's like that's something that I can gain control of. That's something that I can direct in a healthier outlet. I can go to the gym. I can go on a walk. I can clear my head. I can find something that's just gonna get me away from things, and I'm going to calm down in 20 minutes. But I can say something that's gonna last a lifetime, and that's really the important aspect of being introspective. Is that understanding your nature so you can curtail it, understanding the things about you that just are that you can't change. It's okay that you can't change them, but how do you make it a little bit better? How do you put that energy into something more productive?
Moreover, I observed that more profound mood swings could change me existentially. They could influence how I see meaning and purpose and make me doubt my life choices, leading me to make decisions I would otherwise not make. And as Heraclitus pointed out, bodily stages such as fatigue, hunger, and illness correspond with my mood and perception. When I'm very tired, for example, I tend to become more pessimistic. After a bad night's sleep, the world becomes more gloomy and my anxiety goes up. When the weather is very hot, I tend to be
That's the worst feeling when you like know you're gonna get a bad night's sleep and it just like you feel like I was about to say dementia, but like kind of does feel like dementia if you've just been up and like you like just can't think straight and you're just like, oh God, like I had one of those days recently, it was really rough. And like the worst part about that to me is I can't fall asleep after that, so it was like just screwed up my sleep for days.
more irritable. Given these changing states, I'm suspicious of my perceptions during the day, especially when I'm in a pessimistic state of mind.
There's this story Osho shared. I don't remember where he shared it. I don't remember if it was a video or if it was one of his books, but something along the lines of this man was dying and he had a son and he was going to orphan the son because his mother had died or something. Something along the lines of that. And details really aren't that important, but he's like, I don't really have any money to leave you, but what I'm going to leave you with is more valuable than anything else in the world. And essentially, he left him with the advice of when somebody does something to you, wait a day and then respond. And the boy started doing this, somebody would say something to him and he would wait a day. He's like, you know what, maybe you're right. Maybe I can do this differently. Maybe there's some truth in this. And after the course of a lifetime, this man became enlightened because he didn't take things seriously. He tried to be introspective about everything, and through this introspection, he gained the state of enlightenment. It's a super interesting way of thinking about it, is that if you don't react in the moment and you can think about the moment and you could remove yourself from the moment, then you could always make the best decision. You could always understand where this person's coming from. You could take their side. You could see it through their eyes. And you can see they're not doing it to you because they want to do it to you. They're doing it to you because someone else did something to them. Somebody else did something that was fucked up. And now they're just taking it on you. And that's just naturally how things go.
I question my perceptions, recognizing that things may not be as they seem, or at least not as they would appear in a more rested and optimistic state. Also, when I feel dissatisfied with my situation, I often notice that the circumstances haven't changed much. It's mainly my mood, perception, and attitude toward them that have changed. I may have been overthinking.
That's like the biggest thing that I've realized recently, is that if I had the things that I have right now, like the current circumstances I have right now, I would be completely at my wit's end. I'd be freaking out. I'd be so stressed out. I'd be like, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. And like the world would basically be collapsing in my eyes, but I just don't care. Like it sounds so bad, but it's like I'm just at the point where if the problem is something I can do something about right now, I'm going to do something about it right now. But if there's nothing I can do, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to get in my own head, because all that's going to do is prevent me from acting, prevent me from doing. What's up, Louisville? How's everything? Yeah, my bad about last weekend. I was like, all right, I'm gonna talk about the story. And then I went on this rant and I thought it was like 20 minutes and it ended up being 10. And I'm like, oh my God, like I have nothing else to say. I mean, it probably would have been easier if I picked something longer than 5 pages. That's also my bad too. But for the stream this weekend, it'll be even if you can't make it, it'll be much longer. I'll prepare just in case there's not the discussion and the back and forth. But I also don't want it to be so reliant on just me going through material, because I think it would make it a lot more boring if it was just a straight up lecture versus something more interactive. So that was really my way of thinking things, but I'll have a backup plan just in case. And then we could talk about the hunger, or a hunger artist, either before we start or after we start, whenever is easier. That was my bad.
fatigued, sick, or as an introvert, overwhelmed by too much social interaction. And so my perceptions of reality shift constantly. Or to return to the metaphor, the river not only flows continually, our perception of this ever-changing stream is also always in flux. And it's not just our moods that change. Our personalities evolve over time as well.
I think there's certain people that stay the same. And that's really the sad element is that there's a lot of people that, and again, you can do whatever you want with your life. But I went to a wedding recently of people that I went to college with, and I'm not singling anyone out, but just in general, like these people were talking to me about like things we used to do, and it's like seemed like they were still doing the same things. It's like, what? You guys still have the same conversations. You guys are still more or less the same people. You really haven't had that much experience. You really haven't learned that many things, and you're kind of just in the same place you were like 5, 6 years. It was just weird to me because I feel like I progress. Like there's things that I learned this week that changed my life. Like that will completely change the direction my life's going. And I feel like I learn stuff like that on a daily basis. And then you have people that might have one meaningful thought. It's very weird to me. And I'm not like saying that, especially in any way. I'm just like I became obsessed with things that change my perspective, obsessed with things that progress me in a certain direction. It's just that's just why. But like very weird to think that you could be the same person that you were 5 years ago. Like the person that if you saw me 5 years ago on stream, you like this is first of all, I look a lot different, but second of all, it's like I don't even think I have any of the same interests. I don't even think I'd be able to sit in the room with my old self. Like I don't really hate the old version of myself. I don't think that's a productive way of thinking about things, but it's like I've just become so different. Just changed so much. Hopefully for good, but definitely for bad in some ways as well. I'm definitely more lazy than I used to be.
Our thinking matures as we age, though some people seem exempt from that. Life goals that we considered important in the past may become insignificant in the future. Food we enjoyed as children may not longer appeal to us as adults. And a spouse we were once attracted to may no longer attract us later on. And that's not so much because the external things in question have changed, but because we have changed internally. It's literally that platitude often used to explain a wish to break up. It's not you, it's me.
That's so funny too, because it's always a lie. Anytime you hear that, just know you're about to get like the dumbest conversation out. It's like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta heal, I gotta do something for myself. It's like, no, you just don't want to be with me anymore. Just say it that way. The things I used to do 5 years ago are something current me would never do. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's how it should be. Like I feel like you have to make mistakes. Like if you don't make mistakes, then you're never gonna learn. Like I can right now write down and say what you should do in your life, and this will make you successful in this and this and this, and like this idea is really important to hold on to. But like you're not gonna learn that way. There's things you can only learn through experience. There's things you can only learn through making that mistake and biting that bullet and having people laugh at you and having people call you something and without that like somewhat peer pressure, you're not gonna change. There needs to be some sort of suffering.
To conclude this video, I would like to explore what Heraclitus had to say about a form of change that is often painful and uncomfortable, strife, and why we shouldn't always avoid it. The ancient Greek poet Homer once wished that strife would perish among gods and men. And
Think of it this way, like my worst times in my life, like I've had some very significant ups and downs recently, and like the downs are where I learn the most about myself. It's not in the good times where I really break myself down and I really evaluate myself and I really look at the things I'm doing and the person I'm becoming and directing myself in a better direction. No, It's when I fail. It's when I experience hardship. It's when things go wrong. After that initial shock, after that initial pain, after that grief, what comes out of that is, okay, how can I never feel this again? Where did I go wrong? Why did I experience such an excruciating defeat? What can I do better? It's the same thing with breakups. Every time I've had a breakup, I've become a fundamentally different person after the fact. And I think there's something so beautiful in bringing yourself out of hardship, bringing yourself out of pain, purifying yourself into something more than you once were through the experience of some sort of strife. It's funny to think, I know for a fact in 5 years of time, the future me will be absolutely bashed on current me. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's just natural with old age. It's like I look back to like when I was like super young, like I was an idiot. Like, but I feel like we also have the ability of hindsight. Like we have the ability to look back and like look at the situation and be like, yeah, I was an idiot. And it's like you could also just judge the hell out of yourself for like not being smarter or not knowing better. But that really doesn't serve you anything because you were equipped with what you knew at that time. So you made the right decision in your eyes. It wasn't the right decision, but you made the right decision in your eyes. And if you were back there with that same knowledge, you'd probably do the exact same thing. It's very, I don't know, I'm not saying this as any of a negative thing. I don't want to put that idea out there because I don't want you to be ashamed of who you are. I don't want you to be ashamed of your past or things you've done. I just want you to be honest with yourself. I want you to accept yourself. I want you to understand that like I'm me, flaws and all, and it's a good thing. And the more people that can embrace this idea, the more people I think could be happy. But it's not gonna happen, but that's the sentiment I want to
And
put
let's
forward.
face it, wouldn't it be much better if all these pointless wars and other conflicts just vanished so we can all live in peace? In the Homeric epics, you'll find a lot of friction. There's war, betrayal, wrath. We see these things generally as undesirable, and so did Homer. But Heraclitus scolded Homer for his view. He wasn't
It's like war will never end. Governments will never stop oppressing people. Revolutions will always be futile. Money will come and go. Fame will come and go. The people that are famous, the people that we think are myths and legends will one day be forgotten. It's just how things are. And it's like there's this almost need to fight against life. And when I say fight, it could be doesn't mean you have to go out and punch somebody in the face. It just means that like you need to go out there and face life. And for some people, they do that in less productive means, such as a war or some sort of political movement or action or things that are just dumb and, and a waste of time. But it's that sort of idea of things.
necessarily a warmonger, but he considered phenomena like war an inevitable feature of a world in
Think of like this is like the Jungian idea of it, or Gustave Le Bon's idea of war and revolution. They're collective movements in the unconscious. They're collective sort of progression of ideas and things that kind of spring out as a response of other things. It's like think if government treats its people really badly, eventually a revolution is going to happen. It's just in mass. That's just think of it like that, and that's really what you see when there's a huge political upheaval or a certain type of politics becomes popular, or a certain person rises out of obscurity to become this great leader. It's because the unconscious has changed. It's because the crowd has has sort of been impelled in a certain direction as a response to other stimuli. I think I don't see politicians as people. I see, I see them as a collection of ideas, a subset of ideas, because politicians are the greatest liars because in every room they can pander to that person. There's this donor, there's this person, there's this person. They're always putting on a public persona. They're always putting on some sort of action. They're always some way selling themselves. And in fact, they're the greatest actors because they don't even know who their real version is. They're a different person in every different scenario, and they're always spinning the answer to come to a certain means. It's very looking at politicians is kind of hilarious because like everyone hates them, but like they're just the embodiment of the collective.
Constant flux. Heraclitus saw existence as an ongoing interplay of opposites, a paradoxical harmony based on tension, friction, and conflict. And war, as controversial as this may sound, is just an expression of it. Still, acknowledging strife as fundamental does not mean glorifying violence. We can and should try to prevent devastating wars, at least in my opinion. A world without war, however, would not be a
Really putting himself on a limb. That's a real controversial opinion. War is bad. It's so funny though, because that is like, I guess you could, if you go on Twitter, you're like, I don't like war. Somebody will argue with you. So maybe he is, dude. It's people are weird nowadays. People are just like, in the past like week, I've seen like the dumbest possible justifications for the dumbest possible things, and it's just like, not a day goes by where I'm not shocked by what people are defending. And it's not even like big. I'm not even talking about big political issues. I'm just talking about random things. Like I hate that stupid idea of like, is this the hill you're willing to die? It's like if you believe something, believe it. But like, where'd you get this from? Like, how bad is the school system that you're defending this thing? I'm not even gonna say it because it's just a dumb argument.
world without strife. As long as we're here, there will always be tension, opposition, and friction. Profound human conflict can exist without a single moment of violence. And let's not forget the strife between the many organisms on our planet, or natural phenomena like volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. Even the very continents we live on, as solid as
Like, Louisville, have you seen like I don't know if it's just being highlighted recently because of like the stuff going on in the world. Like maybe I'm thinking differently because like it's just more apparent and I'm seeing it more. But like I just feel like I don't know if people are rage baiting either. That could be it, or it's just dead internet theory. But I've just seen some of like the. It's just like like what kind of mental gymnastics you have to do to like get to this. Like how propagandized were you to even like have an opinion about this thing? Like certain things just don't need an opinion. Like certain things are just like, all right, I don't care. Like it's just weird. What's up, Joff? I hope I said that right. Is it Joff or Jeff?
they may
I'm guessing it's Joff Burrows.
seem,
I'm just gonna call you Burrows from now on if you don't
are
concur.
involved in continual strife. So, what we could take from this for our own lives is that we shouldn't always try to avoid conflict, difficult challenges, or moments of intense friction. Existentially speaking, we can
Really Young said is important thing that he said was you need to face your fears. The things that you've been avoiding for the longest time are the things that you need to do first. And I'm not talking about like I'm afraid of heights because you're not going to catch me on a roller coaster. You're not going to catch me jumping out of a plane. Sounds like Jeff. Okay, cool. I'll remember that. Um, I need to keep mod too. I feel like I've seen you a bunch. I always forget to. I almost hid you from the channel. I would have been. I would have had to go into my settings right now to like get you back. That was, um, it's not about like facing your fears that are like rational. Like, okay, if you're afraid of spiders, cool. I'm afraid of spiders too. They're scary. Um, but it's like, what are you afraid to do? Are you afraid of public speaking? Are you afraid of putting yourself out there? You have a dream and you want to go chase it, but you can't even take the first step. Like that's the sort of thing that you should pursue. Like I used this example last time, but I have a friend that like always brings up acquaintance. I said that last time too. But like for like however long I've been training jiu-jitsu, it's like 5 years, almost 6 years now. No, 5 years. Yeah, 5 years, I think. But for the whole time I've been training jiu-jitsu and MMA, he's like, "Oh, I always want to try it." And it's like I know deep down somewhere in him he like wants to give it a try, but he still hasn't. And it's like it's such a low bar to show up to a gym and do a trial class, and the person wants your money. The coach wants your money. They're not gonna beat you up so bad that you don't come back. They're gonna be nice on you. They're gonna ease you into things. It's like it's a very like I want you to start breaking down your fears in this way. I want you to start understanding your fears in this way because it's so much easier to face them when you start breaking them down in this. And again, I am vastly oversimplifying the fears of it, and I'm an outside observer who has already gone through the gauntlet of people beating him up. So I'm not afraid of getting beat up anymore. So it's stupid to me, but understand that a lot of things you're afraid to do, you need to do. Put your toe in first, then put your foot in, then get up to your knees, and then jump in. Like that's the sort of way we need to approach our life. And if you don't know where to start, then start asking yourself questions. That's really where we need to go. But it's always the first step. Yeah, the first step's always the hardest. It really is. Like the first time you go to the gym is the hardest time you go to the gym. Nothing else will compare to that. Because you have this weird idea that people are going to make fun of you, people are going to laugh at you, people are going to point. Not maybe. If I see you at the gym, I'm going to laugh at you. Um, I just have to get pictures of you guys, like some way track you guys down and just like find no. Like nobody in the right mind is gonna laugh at you. Nobody in your right mind is gonna judge you because everyone was that way at one point. But like there's this like weird conception that like everyone in the gym is an asshole. Everyone in the gym is like me. Like and I feel like so many people have stopped just for that reason. Like I've talked to so many people that are like, I just don't want to go. I'm afraid. Like my girlfriend, she always is like, I'm scared to go in there. I don't know. Like, and I've just told her, I'm like, just go in and you'll see it's not that bad. It's very weird. I don't know, but it's definitely like you said, it's always the first step. The first step's always the hardest. Once you get the ball rolling, it's a lot easier to build momentum. But if that ball is not rolling, then you have to get it going. Once you get it going, if you really enjoy it, you're just gonna keep going after it. And that's the saddest thing too. It's like there's been so many things in my life that I wish I started doing early. Like I wish I started doing YouTube earlier. I don't think I would have been good at it. I'm still not good at it, but like it's so fun. It really is, and it's not even like I don't really even spend that much time. The most time I spend is like 2 hours on a stream. It's like I think most people can find 2 hours in a day. You know what I mean? It's like I could stop going to the gym. I could stop training. Like this is my favorite thing to do. I could stop doing everything else if I really had to, and I could keep doing this. And it's like imagine if I started earlier, like how much better I could be because I would have so much more practice. Like I wanted to do this forever, and I just didn't because I was afraid that oh my career, oh this, oh that. Like all these stupid copes that like stopped me from doing something that I would enjoy. All these stupid copes that made my life actively worse for this imaginary fear. It's the same thing with jujitsu. Jujitsu. I wanted to, dude. I would listen to like Joe Rogan talk about jujitsu. I'm like, this seems awesome. I'd watch the UFC fights. I'd be like, this is so cool. And it's like, for the longest time, I stopped myself from doing something I love, something that I find myself having a lot of fun doing, and I'm getting better at it, and I'm progressing a skill, and it's even carried over into other areas of my life where I become more confident, I become more competent at things. I learned how to master a skill. I learned how to get good at a skill. So if you can get good at one skill, you can get good at other skills. There's so much carryover between different facets of life, and it's like as Miyamoto Musashi said, if you know the way, you see it in all things. Should saying if you can become a master at one thing, you're a master at all things. I wish I started doing boxing earlier. Yeah, it's exactly like that. It's like if you really have a passion for something, the longer you wait, the worse it's gonna feel when you're like, damn, this is how fun it is. I wish I started earlier. Anyway, back to the video. I feel like I went on a 10-minute tangent.
We can see these as the fires in which we forge the essence of our lives, not merely as discomfort to be avoided. Failure can build character, often more so than success ever could. Painful feedback can propel us into meaningful improvement.
Again, you'd never know how good you are until you fail. Because when you fail, you understand you're below that point. And once you understand that you're below that point, then you can start making the readjustments. It's failure is essential to success. You're only probably 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, maybe 10,000 failures away from your goal, but you're not willing to fail 10,000 times, and that's why you won't reach it. That's really how I want you to think about this. And it's the attitude you carry with failure too. It's failure has this somewhat negative connotation to it. I don't really see it as a bad thing anymore, but like I've also done so much reprogramming of my mind that it's like it just works in different ways. But like failure's not a bad thing. Failure's a good thing because you have a baseline. You have a reset. You can do a post game kind of analysis and understand where you went wrong and oh well, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And it's like I want you to start if you have such a bad connotation with the word failure, just see it as opportunity. I missed this opportunity. I missed it this time. And how can I find the silver lining? How can I find the little thing that I got a little bit of success from that I can build on next time and I can do this and I can do that. It's like it's so essential to transforming who you are.
movement. Physical strain can strengthen the body, and a good argument between spouses can save a marriage. Change can be terrifying and uncomfortable, but it's unavoidable. And often we try to fight against it by clinging to what must pass or resisting what cannot be stopped. But
Yes. Every time you lose money gambling, it's like that meme. It's like that meme of the person that gives up gambling and they're right next to like the thing of diamonds. I'm joking. Please don't gamble your money. But like it's exactly like that. The thing is with gambling is like even if you win big, you're gonna eventually lose money because there's no blood, sweat, and tears associated with it. So you didn't earn it. And because you didn't earn it, you're not gonna take it as serious. It's like I was watching the Mr. Beast game show. It's actually like one of the better game shows, but I was watching with my girlfriend because she likes it. And like these people that are like complaining about money and they're like, oh, well, I want to win this because of this and this. Like Mr. Beast gave them all like I want to say like 75 grand each, and they're just tossing it away like it means nothing. And meanwhile, I'm seeing this and I'm like, these are the same people like an hour ago were like, oh, well, I want to win this for my family. Like if you have 75 grand, you could like live pretty well. Like you could pay a lot of bills. You could get a nice nest egg set up for some sort of investment or some sort of thing that could really set yourself up well financially. These people are just throwing it around and giving it to each other, and it was just crazy to see in real time.
why? Why long for the past and resist the present? Why resist ideas that clearly are more accurate than the ones we have? Why cling to a friendship that no longer works? Why hold on to something that no longer
No, because every time I don't do big parlays, but like if I do a parlay, it's always like I'll put like a few dollars, and it's like plus 10,000 odds, and I'll get like five fights right in a row, and then like I'm like, oh, but this next one, I'm not gonna pull out because this next one I'm gonna win. I always lose. And it's meanwhile like I turn $2 into like 50, and I can just take it easy, but I want to make 300, and it's like, dude, you just whatever 25 extra money, and you're complaining about like how you want even better odds. Like it's so funny like how stupid you become when you start gambling, when you start like playing with money that's not yours. It's actually hilarious.
exist. Heraclitus didn't leave us a complete philosophical system for dealing with a world in flux.
Uh, this is because a lot of his writing was lost. He was like way before Plato, and I don't know, a lot of these philosophers like a lot of their stuff got burnt because like if you were saying stuff that was controversial or if you did something bad or if your city got taken over, like, you know, things get destroyed back then. There's not like the internet where you could just upload something and it's there forever. So, um, a lot of Heraclitus's work is lost, and that's why this book is called Fragments. So, I don't know if he's gonna say that. He probably will, but
At least, not that we know of. He wrote in riddles, and much of his work has been lost.
I gamble like $2. It's not a lot. It like I don't know. It's just it's fun sometimes, but I don't really do it that much. I like I feel like anytime somebody underplays how much they gamble, it always sounds like they are. But I if It's like if I ever win money, I take it out. If I usually don't, it's never so much where like it's debilitating.
But if
I
there's
don't have
one
anyone coming to
lesson we
break my
can take from
kneecaps.
him, it is this: the
Like if I
truly
lose
wise
$5, I'm like,
learn to
I'm done
have
for this.
change on their side. Thank you for watching.
Good video. All right, I have this other video pulled up. Hopefully it's good. Um, it's about Rilke, which if you're not familiar with, he's one of my favorite poets ever. I think he is able to speak to the nature of things in such a simplistic way, and it's just there's some really deep beauty in his lines. I swear to God, if this is AI, I'm gonna be so sad because I pulled this video up like 3 days ago, and I was like planning on doing the video we just did and this video, and then I lost track of time. But like I've been excited to watch this video. I don't know anything about it. Suspense is building up if this is AI or not. How many views does this have? Oh no, this is 3 years old. Okay, it's definitely not AI.
To love the question, something helpless that wants our love.
Dude, I need to learn how to do this cinematic stuff. This is cool. Every time I see a video like this, I'm like, why don't I do stuff like this? And it's like, I don't know. I feel like my style is just talking about everything and anything and not really paying attention to detail.
Be patient towards all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are now written in a very foreign tongue. Do not seek the answers which cannot be given you because
Or he's just reading lines. I'm gonna go back to this video on my own time. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to like explain it though. All right, let me pull up something real quick. We'll watch another one of this guy's videos. I think we
That
talked
which
about
offers no resistance over
I don't think we've talked about Taoism in a while. And Taoism is like the easiest thing to understand, but the hardest at the same time. And it's like the easiest way to think about it is in nothingness you have everything. Think like the more attachments you have to this world, the more money you have, the more responsibility you have, the more things that tie you to this world, the less of your own time you have. Whereas if you have nothing, you have everything because you have the absolute freedom to do with your time as you see fit.
overcomes the hardest substances. That which offers no resistance can enter where there is no space. Few in the world can comprehend the teaching without words or understand the value of non-action.
So this word right here, or these two words, combination of words, is very important. And I think this is really the essential aspect of Taoism and really the part that you can take away because when I talk about these ideas, I try to really emphasize the things that I take and I apply and I use for my own benefit because obviously if you're attracted to this channel, it's because you want to understand these ideas and use it for your own purpose, use it to make your existence better, use it to find inspiration. And the Taoist idea of Wu Wei or non-action or purposeful action, I think is one of the most fundamental things that you can start to think about. And what I want you to understand about this idea of Wu Wei, this idea of non-action, is that it's not so much that you do nothing. It's not that you lie in bed all day. It's not that you ignore everything. It's that you devote yourself to your current task fully. And I know this is a very difficult concept because think, you're cooking and you're watching YouTube video, you're eating and you're watching TV, you're working but you have your headphones in. Like there's very few things that we devote ourselves fully to nowadays, and that's why there's such a fracturing of the psyche. That's why there's such a fracturing of our attention. That's why it's so difficult to feel good about your life or good about the things you're doing is because they're monotonous, they're boring, there's no point to them, there's no purpose to them. But what Wu Wei is it's the thing that you lose yourself in. It's the thing that you do and it feels like you just started and you blink your eyes and it's been a few hours. It's been a set amount of time and it feels like you just started a second ago. You could expend yourself physically, but you feel like you're fresh. You feel like you could keep going. Think of the athletes like Michael Phelps would train all day, Kobe Bryant would train all day. Like that's because they love doing it. You can't do that through sheer willpower. You have to have a passion for it. You have to have a love for it. That has to be something that is effortless and something that you lose yourself in, or otherwise you wouldn't be able to do it. You wouldn't be able to keep it up. And that's really what I want you to start thinking of. Like, what are the things that you could express? What are the things that you could find this sort of purpose in? What are the things that you could lose yourself in and you could enjoy and you could devote yourself fully to? And you see it a lot, like people are like, "Oh, the gym saved my life, jujitsu saved my life," and they're right. They are because it allowed them to get past the more mundane parts of their lives. It gave them something that they could devote themselves to. They would forget about the rest of the world. They would forget about their worldly responsibilities. They could for an hour, for 2 hours, for a little bit of time, just get a reprieve from the constant stress, from the constant monotony, from the constant need to, I have to do this, I have to do that. Well, like I like all this need to run around. It's devoting yourself to one thing and one thing only. You're working on a project, but you're thinking about something that you have to do in 2 hours. You're doing this, but you're worried about this. It's no. Devote yourself to one thing at a time. That is Wu Wei.
Lao Tzu. There's no proof that he truly ever lived, but if he did, it should have been somewhere around the 5th and 6th century BC, which makes him a contemporary of Confucius. Nevertheless, the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu wrote a masterpiece called the Tao Te Ching, which is the
Nobody knows why it was written to. Like it loosely some people say it's like a manual for leaders. It's not. I didn't really get that from it. I thought it was more so a journey about the soul, about finding yourself, about losing yourself in activity, as I just said.
main work of Taoism. A well-known concept that has emerged from Taoist philosophy is Wu Wei, that can be translated as non-action, effortless action, or the paradoxical action of non-action. In a practical sense,
I
we
hate
can
how I
describe
just explained. Just ruined the video for you guys.
Wu Wei as the state of flow, often referred to as the zone by athletes. When athletes are in the zone, they engage in action without striving.
I think this is the easiest way to think about it as well, because I feel like we've all kind of had that moment, or even if you haven't done any sort of athletics, but it's certainly the most common when you take a shot and you don't think about it, it just goes in, and you know it's going to go in. That sort of thing.
And move through time and space almost effortlessly. There are no extremes, no worries, no ruminations. Everything seems to flow in a natural course. As an introduction to the beautiful tradition of Taoism, I would like to present you the philosophy of flow.
I know that music's gonna get copyrighted instantly. I'm gonna have to like trim it out for like hours upon
The Tao
hours.
Te
That's so
Ching
long
is
as
a
it lasted.
mysterious piece of art. Not only there's no consensus when exactly it was written, but the existence of its author remains disputed. Nevertheless,
Trying to find it because it's really short. I don't see it. Usually have it near me. But my copy's like 40 pages, and I read it in like maybe 30 minutes, and I'm like, I don't really get it. Like I was like, what's so great about this? But it's I'm just gonna make fun of myself. It's something that you're meant to digest. It's something that you're meant to ponder. It's not so much that you read this and uh you instantly get it. No, it's something you have to decipher. It's something you have to sit with. These ideas are eternal ideas that the more you think about, the more profound they become. And it's somewhat like the Bible, where it's like, the Bible's what, 2,000 pages, and it's been interpreted over millions, if not billions of pages. And it's like the analysis of the Bible is so much larger than the Bible itself. It's the same sort of thing. It's like there's a myriad of different explanations, and you can find all sorts of meaning and all sorts of messaging, but really it's just a personal journey. It's a personal experience that you're going to have with this text.
One thing is certain, the profundity of this work has left its mark on humanity to this day. Not to mention that the Tao Te Ching is the most translated work in world literature after the Bible. The essence of Taoist philosophy is living in harmony with the Tao, also called the Way.
All
So,
right, I was about to
what
explain it,
is
but he's
the
going to
Tao?
explain it.
That's a question we can't really answer, and it's futile to try.
Hold on, give me a. I'll be back in a minute. All right, I'm back. I still can't find it. I don't know where I put it. Watch, I'll see it when I turn the lights back on.
Our understanding of the Tao only goes as far as the limitations of our perception. What the Tao really is, and what it
Okay, so the Tao Te Ching says, and I want to say it's to the beginning. I don't specifically remember what part, but more or less what it says is the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. And really what it's saying is that even in our conception of the infinite, we are coming up short. And I think it's like this idea, it's like if God could create the universe, if God was so powerful that he could create the universe, could we understand him? Could we even view him? Could we even see him? It's that sort of idea of things, is that the eternal is so large, it's so grand that we can't even begin to grasp it. And really it's like that idea in Hermeticism. It's was it rhythm? I think it is. I always mix them up because they use similar words, but it's just the idea that like something is working on such a grand scale that like it might seem random to you, but everything happens for a purpose. Everything's going according to plan. It's that sort of way of things.
looks, feels, smells, or sounds like remains a mystery. Moreover, the Tao that we speak of isn't the real Tao, according to Lao Tzu. Hence, the famous opening of the Tao Te Ching goes like this: the Tao that can be
I just gotta let him talk because every time I try to say something, he says it
described is
two words
not the
later.
eternal Tao. The name that can be spoken is not the eternal name. End quote. So, what knowledge is available about the Tao? Well, the Taoist philosophers emphasize over and over again that the true Tao is an all encompassing force.
So like an easy way to think about it is like Emerson's idea of nature or the oversoul. Like the Tao is like the way of things, the order, and to live according to the Tao is to be simplistic, is to live off the basic means. In a certain way, Henry David Thoreau is very much a Taoist in the way he lives. That he broke down his life to the bare minimum. He broke his life down to I only have two chairs for when people visit me. I only have the right amount of tools and the right amount of potatoes so that I can survive this winter. I have a tiny cabin that really doesn't have much room, but I can sleep in it, and I have a little stand where I can write. That sort of idea of things. It's that the simplicity is where the beauty is. The simplicity is where the purpose is. And the further we get away from the simplicity is the further we get away from all meaning, all hope, all purpose, all sort of depth of experience.
that is beyond our comprehension and cannot be perceived by the senses. And even though we can never grasp the true Tao, the goal is to live in agreement with it, which is strikingly similar to the Stoic approach to nature. So, how
And that's why I don't talk about Stoicism as much as I talk about Taoism or Emerson's philosophies, because I see them really a lot as the same. And to me, I just like Emerson's writing better. I like the Tao Te Ching better. I think there's like a eternal nature to the Tao Te Ching. There's like a scale and a weight to the words. Whereas when I read Marcus Aurelius or when I read Seneca, it's like you could tell a man wrote it. Where I don't know, like it sounds like imagine like if Master Oogway was like actually who he was. That's how it comes off.
do we live in harmony with the way? Taoist literature doesn't really give one practical method to achieve this. However, we can find many clues that point to achieving stillness of mind, curbing the senses, being humble, and the cessation of
And this is like the I don't know if this like I don't know if people misconceive this, but like it's a very surface level like understanding of stuff, which I think we live in a world of surface level understanding. So I hope I don't strawman it, but like when I say like live Master Oogway, I couldn't think of a better example. But like imagine if he was this really this sage. Like that's how it seems like he would write. It would be the Tao Te Ching, that sort of kind of wisdom and parables and paradoxes, that sort of way of has that weight to it. Completely lost my train of thought. Damn it. But when I say live according to nature, I'm not saying like go out and live in the woods. I'm saying like break your life down and have the understanding of yourself to understand what you really want out of life. And that's living according to your nature. And I think people see these ideas and see these beliefs and they're like, well, I can't do this because we live in the modern day world and it's just I'm not gonna go out and live the way. You don't have to do that, but just understand these ideas and start to move in that direction. Start to simplify your life. Start to understand that like a lot of the things that you worry about really don't mean anything. Really don't have any impact on you. Really don't have any say on your life, and you're actively making your life worse. And you giving attention, energy, and effort to these things are just they're they're keeping you stuck. They're keeping you from being all you can be.
striving in order to open ourselves up to the workings of the universe. This stillness of mind doesn't necessarily mean that we sit down somewhere with our eyes closed. The Taoists observe that stillness of mind can be combined with action, and if we are completely in the present moment, our actions will go effortlessly, without friction, and accompanied by a razor sharp focus.
So think of like you don't have to meditate because you're already meditating. You're completely absorbed in what you're doing. You're completely devoted to what you're doing, and you don't need to make a conscious effort of calming your mind down. It's just that every step you take is purposeful. Everything you do is for a reason. You know where you're going next. You know what you need to do next. You don't have to calm yourself down because your mind isn't racing.
So much so that it's almost ecstatic. In his biography, retired professional basketball player Bill Russell writes, "It was almost as if we were playing in slow motion. During those spells, I could almost sense how the next play would develop and where the next shot would be taken."
And like think of the idea of like a flow state or like you've had writer's block for whatever reason, all of a sudden you can write. It's that idea of things. It's like you almost get into this meditative like state. You almost get into this state where whatever you want to do, you can do. And it's living in that moment is Taoism essentially.
End quote. The Taoist work Zhuangzi contains a story about a cook named Ting, who engages in his work while in a state of flow. This grasped the attention of Lord Wen Hui, who was amazed about how elegantly the cook cut up oxen. When he commented him on his skill, Cook Ting laid down his knife and replied, "What I care about is the way, which goes beyond skill. When I first began cutting up oxen, all I could see was the ox itself. After 3 years, I no longer saw the whole ox. And now I go at it by spirit and don't look with my eyes. Perception and understanding have come to stop and
Think about like tying your shoes. I don't know why this is a thought I have a lot, but like I don't know how to tie my shoes if I think about it, but I could just do it. You know what I mean? Like it's so mechanical because it's just something I've done so many times. Whereas like I really haven't sat down and be like I do this loop and then I what's the SpongeBob song? Do the loop de loop and pull and then your shoes are looking good. Like you know what I mean? It's just it's something that you don't think about. It's something that you don't worry about. And I feel like some people in chat definitely think I'm an idiot now, but like there's a salient point in there and get past the point of me calling myself an idiot.
spirit moves where it wants. I go along with the natural makeup, strike in the big hollows, guide the knife through the big openings, and following things as they are. So I never touch the smallest ligament or tendon, much less a main joint." End quote. An essential part of this story is the condition of the knife that the cook uses. He stated that good cooks change their knives every year because they cut, and mediocre cooks change their knives every month because they hack. Cook Ting, however, was using the same knife for 19 years because he used it with skill and subtlety. This
Think it's the efficiency of it too. Like imagine if you could devote yourself to a project completely and fully for a handful of days. I promise you you'd be able to get it done. But the thing is, most of us can't hold our attention on something for more than a few minutes at a time, maybe even a few seconds at a time, dependent on how screwed up your attention is. And I'm in this boat. I have to devote a lot of energy to just keep my attention on something for a short amount of time. It really is very sad. But you have a project. You want to write a book. You want to draw a masterpiece. You want to direct your life in another direction. You want to come up with a plan. Like imagine if you could just sit down in a room with no distractions and solely think about that goal, not check your phone, not check the news, not check TikTok, not check Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And like you completely devoted yourself to that. Like you could get that thing knocked out in a day versus it might take you months or years or even your entire lifetime to get that same kind of productivity from that really focused action, that really precise movement.
story connects to another essential teaching of Taoism, which is the power of gentleness. By forcing and striving, we might get the job done. But at the same time, we spend much more energy than necessary and possibly suffer from collateral damage. On the other hand, someone in a state of flow approaches a task intelligently, knowing when to act and when not to, and finds a balance between action and non-action. It's a matter of not too hot, not too cold. It's the golden path between anxiety and boredom.
It's like that just right feeling, like you did just enough. You got the most bang for your buck. You didn't put in too much effort, but you didn't not take enough action. It's the middle path. It's not good to be too extreme in any one direction. You're too strong here, then that's going to make you weak somewhere else. It's getting the best of both worlds. It's being able to avoid tipping the scale in any one direction.
The idea behind non-action goes against the Western ideal of forcing and working harder and harder to get results.
Think when you're at a job, like, and you finish all your work, you try to seem busy. You try to find something to do. You go check your email. You make yourself neurotic simply by just the necessity of having to work, of having to find something to do, or trying to look busy. Problem I keep running into is when I devalue what I'm trying to do, I can't get into the groove. I don't think you have to devalue what you're trying to do. I think you should divorce yourself from the results. And what I mean by this is like when you get to that goal, it's gonna feel nice, but what feels better are those little moments when you're like really working hard and you have a small breakthrough and you're like, I see it. I know what I'm gonna do and I keep working. Like the things that I enjoy most about any sort of pursuit is the process. And I think people forget about the process a lot. Like you have to have fun during the journey. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. What steps are you taking to get there? Like set in your mind that I have this goal, I have this destiny, I have this. And tell yourself you're going to get there. And then understand that each step of the way is just you're getting closer to there. But I think we obsess too much about the end goal. And every time you fail, you're like, why? I didn't get it. I didn't have this. I don't have this. Like, have fun. We forget to have fun along the way. We forget to have fun during the process. Like, I could look at this right now and I could look at my goals and be like, well, I don't have X amount of people in the stream or this or like I could say all these things. I could get in my own head. I could end the stream right now because I didn't reach my goal tonight. Or I could say, cool. I learned what I need to do. I can refine things. I can market myself in a better way. I can do this. I can do that. But I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna play around with this. I'm not gonna take it so serious. Like, you know what I mean? It's like when you get to the mountaintop, it's only worth it because of the hardship that you put into it. It's that Tolkien quote, not all who wander are lost. That you're meant to struggle, you're meant to lose your way, you're meant to nearly give up, but you nearly giving up and then triumphing makes it so much more valuable, it makes it so much more worth it. Think if you won the lottery today, or no, if you won the lottery in a year, I used to use this example, but I feel like I made it much better. If you win the lottery in a year versus if you write a book or you start a business or you get the job that you want and you make the same amount of money at the end of the year, what would mean more? Would it be buying that sheet of paper and then seeing it on the news and you're like, yeah, I won? Or would it be I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this and I tried and I failed and I struggled and I did everything that I could and I came out on top and I got to this end goal. It's always the thing you work for. But we like to divorce the work. We like to divorce the title or the the hardship that we went through from the actual result. It's like that's the meat of it. That's the important part of it. It's not the goal. Your goal is going to change. My goal when I first started this channel was so fundamentally different from what it is right now. And I feel like it's going to be completely different in a few months, in a year, or in whatever. You know what I mean? It's going to keep changing. It's going to keep getting different. And it's like, you got to have fun along the way, is what I'm trying to tell you. Thanks for the inspiration. You didn't have to do that. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jordan. Thank you for the super chat, Jordan. That made my night. That made it all worth it. Not actually. I'm glad I could help you, and I'm glad that I could give you any sort of positive thoughts because it's hard. It really is hard to be positive when the world wants you to be negative, when everything on the news is awful, when the people around you they just want to take digs and say, "Oh, I didn't have this, I don't have this." Like, cool, but what does that do for me? I don't know, it doesn't do anything. All that it does is reinforces the same old beliefs and reinforces the same old ideas that got you to where you're going to go. Your actions are derivative of your thoughts. So if you think the same thing your whole life, well, you're going to get the same sort of actions. If you want to be different, then change your thoughts. And it all starts with the way we reframe things. And the less I think about the end results, the more fun I have. And the more fun I have, the more enjoyable it is to fail. Most importantly, the more I can learn because I'm not taking it so serious. You know, if you have a job interview and you're like, this is going to make or break me and this is the end of the world and I have to live and die off every word this person says, then it's going to be very difficult when you get that rejection. But if you go into a job interview and you're like, I probably won't get it, but why don't I just use it as experience? Then you took the pressure off yourself. Then you could do better. Then you're not going to fumble for your words. Then you don't have high expectations. So when you fail, it's okay. Like it's that sort of idea of things. I think the level of importance we put on things are far too high, and we have so many more opportunities than we give ourselves credit for. You know, you fail on something, you could always try again. You could always do it again. Who cares? Who cares if you fail? If anything, it's a good thing because then it means when you succeed, it's going to feel that much better.
We are encouraged to be ambitious, to take control, and to strive. Meanwhile, many people suffer from depression, anxiety disorders, and sleep disorders. Are we burning ourselves out? We look down on passivity and often mistake it for laziness, but these are different things. When we look at nature,
There's this like weird idea that if you do more work, you're more productive. But a lot of the work we do is not productive work. A lot of the work we do is just busy work. And just think of yourself as a battery. You only have so much capacity. You can only do so much in a day. And is it worth it for you to devote so much energy, attention, and time to things that don't matter, or do you really want to get the most bang for your buck? And that's really the essential nature of calming yourself down, of mindfulness practices, of going for a walk when you're stressing yourself out, of finding a reset, of finding a reprieve, because it allows you to refocus and reevaluate what the most important thing I can do right now is. And you know, it's that saying, work smarter, not harder. Last week, I think I said work harder, not smarter, and I was like, I'm an idiot.
doing nothing makes way more sense than we tend to think. Results do not equal the amount of energy we spend. Results are the consequence of a series of actions. The funny thing about this is that many of these actions come naturally, and the task doesn't need more human intervention than necessary to steer it into the right direction. Isn't it so that many problems solve themselves?
Isn't it so that many problems solve themselves? Think of how many things you've stressed out about that immediately resolve themselves. Like, I'll give you a quick example. Like, I checked my bank account and like I wasn't getting charged for my jujitsu gym, and I like felt awful about it. And then I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh my God, like I need to pull out this amount of money from my investments and this and this and like, and I literally gave myself a full-on panic attack. And I got a call the next day, and they're like, yeah, we were charging you the whole time. Like, you're fine. And meanwhile, I'm like, where am I going to find $1,000 out of nowhere? Because I don't want to rip these people off. These are great people, great family business. And I was like, I literally made my life so awful for like a handful of hours just because I don't know. I guess I wanted to make myself anxious. I guess I needed something to be afraid of. Like, it's just like, and I'm saying this like to one, make myself look like an idiot and give you guys something to laugh at, and like two, to exemplify the point that like a lot of the stuff we worry about really doesn't need to be worried about. As Seneca said, we suffer more in our own minds than we do in reality. We always build things up to be so much worse than they actually are. You know, we always take that pessimistic lens of the worst case scenario, but what about the best case scenario? You know, it's very weird that, you know, it's like a default to focus on the negatives. It's a default to focus on the things you don't have versus the things that you do have. And it's like there's this saying like happiness is a choice. And I don't know how much I agree with it because I think there's obviously some things that are difficult to go through, but like to me it is. To me it's like I have the ultimate choice of like cursing my life and cursing all the things that have gone wrong and why couldn't I just get lucky this and this. It's like I could also just look at my life and literally say I have so many things people would literally kill me to have. Literally kill me to have. Like there's so many things I could point to in my life that I could just be so profoundly happy for. But I have the gall to be unhappy. And even if you don't have anything, you still have life. Like think of how many people in the cemetery that lived and died and weren't able to chase their dreams. and they're looking at you. I guess we believe in ghosts now. They're looking at you saying, "Fuck this guy," because he has the nerve to complain about being alive. Like it's very weird. You know, you don't like your shoes, we'll look to somebody that doesn't have feet. Like you could always it's a terrible way of it's a terrible way of viewing things, but it really is true, and it really does. Every time I find myself being so down, it just pisses me off when I can reframe it in this way. I'm like, I'm such an idiot. I have so many things going for me. There's so many things I could point to that I could just be profoundly happy, but I have the nerve to be sad. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's not the healthiest way to think about it, but like, I have a very weird sense of humor.
Taoism compares life to a river. The river already has a course, or several courses, and once we find ourselves in that river, we can swim against the current, we can hold on to a branch, or we can let go and go along with the stream. Most
Go
of our
with the
lives,
flow.
we swim against the current, and we don't even realize it. Our mind believes that it can and should control the environment in order to survive, which is kind of egocentric, because the vast majority of processes within as well as outside ourselves are not in our control. I mean, let's face it, we don't control our bodily processes like digestion,
We actually do, but it's unconscious. That's a bad example.
blood flow, or the healing of wounds. We don't control other people. We don't control the future. We don't even control who we fall in love with and what people we find attractive. Everything outside our own faculties just goes into
And this is like very much analogous with like Stoicism. Stoicism takes it in a different way. It's like, whatever the world does to me, I'm going to enjoy it. Amor fati. Love your fate. Love everything that happens to you. And it's like this stoic idea of like all you can control is your perception to things. But I like the way Taoism puts it so much more because there's like this spirit to it. There's this heart to it. There's this soul to it. I don't know. I think it's just personal preference.
some direction, sometimes forced by intelligence, but mostly in a natural course. When we flow along with the current, we align ourselves with this natural course. This is the path of least resistance. It gives nature a chance to unfold without us resisting it. So the Taoist way is rather navigating through the river instead of trying to control it, something that will never work. Another aspect of the river that characterizes Taoism is the water itself. The characteristics of water are softness and humility that basically symbolize
I think be able to change to every circumstance, be able to conform to any um container you're put in. What's that? Patrice had a joke about Jim Norton. He's like, Jim looks like any container that you put him in. It's that sort of idea of things. That's a joke that I'll remember every so often and just laugh so hard about, but like I have nobody to tell it to, so I'm gonna tell it to you guys.
Taoist virtue. Here's a quote from the Tao Te Ching. The supreme good is like water, which benefits all of creation without trying to compete with it. It gathers in unpopular places, thus it is like the Tao. End quote. Water may be soft, but it overcomes hardness, which
And think of it this way, like water follows the easiest path. And there's something analogous to the human mind. There's something analogous to consciousness where people will point at the world and blame the world for their problems because it's easier to point the finger at the world than to point the finger at yourself, than to look in the mirror and be introspective and look at the mirror and evaluate yourself and direct yourself in a different direction. And there's so many analogous things to this, and like there's the Hermetic principle of as above, so below. That's how I interpret things. There's a whole myriad of interpretations of that, and you could take it in very weird ways, but that's all I like to think about
we
it.
can see in the erosion of rock. And water not only seeks the lower places, it also has no purpose, no goal, no specific desire. Yet it nourishes everything that it passes. It's an incredible life force that literally does God's work, but without any ambition. Water is the softest and most yielding substance. Yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. End quote.
And think how water erodes everything. You know, the river. Why can I not speak? Whatever the river is that goes through Grand Canyon created the Grand Canyon. That was from that river. It was once so big that it was able to do that. And constant tension, constant flow can erase absolutely everything.
Quote, if you've ever experienced a state of flow, there's one thing that disappears and only comes back when the thinking mind takes back control. This is the focus on results rather than the task at hand. This reminds me of the
And Jordan, this is what I don't know if you're still here, but this is what I was saying uh, a few minutes ago. It's that we focus so much on the end results instead of aiming in a direction and pursuing that direction. You worry too much about the end results. You're worried too much about the pressure and what happens if I don't do this? What happens if I don't do this? Instead of just actually going into the exam. I took a really big exam recently, last week actually, and the first time I took it, I failed because the whole time I'm like, I need to worry about this. I need to worry about this. I need to worry about this. Where this time, before the exam, I made it a habit, and even during the exam, I made it a habit to remind myself, like, you studied enough for this. You did enough for this. You don't really care about this much. This isn't really that important. You could always take it again. Who cares if you fail? Who cares if this like I tried to imagine the worst case scenario and like it really wasn't that bad. So it took all the pressure off of it. And I was able to go into this exam and perform as I should because I'm not worried about it. I just went out there and did my best. And usually your best is enough, but so few times are we able to give our best because we're worried about the end results. We're worried about what if I fail this? What if I do this? Oh, I don't exactly know this problem or I don't know this, I don't know this. Like you can get into your head about all the little details or you can just go out there and perform. And it's the same thing with my fighting, same thing with my jiu-jitsu. It's like the more I concern myself with, oh, this person isn't that good, I'm so much better than them, they shouldn't get this position on me. Like the more I force it, the more I make a mistake, the more I do something that I really shouldn't have done. And it's just, it's like I'm just getting my own way. I just want to perform. I don't want to worry about the end goal. Do I feel like I passed? I feel like I passed, but I feel like I passed the first time. So take with that what you want. I mean, obviously I prepared in a different way. So hopefully this way was enough. But who knows, man? Who knows?
Stoic concept of amor fati, which recommends one to embrace the outcome, whatever it may be, and instead of worrying about the future, focusing on what's in the present. No matter if you're completely immersed in sports, writing, a video game, or dancing, when you're in a state of flow, you forget the results, the pressure.
Forget the results, the pressure subsides, and then you can perform as you should perform. You've given a presentation, but you choke up because you look at the crowd and your boss isn't paying attention or this or things didn't go right and you did all this preparation but you didn't do the you didn't put out that preparation. You didn't show yourself. You were too worried about the results. You were too worried about the external results, the external world instead of just putting your best foot forward.
The anxieties about the future, the failings of the past. It's just you and the task at hand. You are completely in the present, and the only way to do this is by letting go. Letting go means stop swimming against the current, stop holding on to some branches. It means letting go of the past, letting go of the future. Focus on this moment entirely and just live it without hesitation.
Live it without hesitation is a great way of putting it. I'll keep going. I'll find another video, but I'm gonna take a break real quick. I'll be back in like I don't know, hopefully soon. Like 5 minutes maybe. 2 minutes. I don't know. Hmm, what should we go through? I don't think we talked about Huxley in a while.
Learn about some of
I feel like I used to talk about Aldous Huxley a lot, but it's been a very long time, and I think it's very um closely related to the ideas we were talking about so far because a lot of what we were focusing on was the idea of attention, the idea of how important your attention is, and finding purpose and meaning and that sort of thing. And it's so much correlated with your ability to set your mind on things that actually matter, set your mind on things that actually have value, actually have meaning, actually have some sort of facet of humanity in it, and removing your attention from things that don't matter, such as media that's not inspirational or social media in general or the news or the office politics or just simply stupid things about the day to day. And I think we give too much of our attention freely away. And the way I like to view this is think you only have so much energy and you only have so much time in the day. And we freely give it to people that don't mean anything to us, but we don't give it to the people that mean the most to us. And what I mean by this is like, when was the last time you told the most meaningful person in your life that you love them? In fact, I'm gonna do that right now. It's a good. It's I always say these things and then I forget to do that. But like, let me send a text real quick. But you get what I'm saying? Like it's been a few days for me. It's like it's so stupid because I've been consuming things that don't mean anything instead of putting my love to something, my energy to something that I can actually build. All right, we'll get into this video. This is Pursuit of Wonder. Great channel, by the way.
the greatest insights from some of the greatest minds in history in my book, The Art of Living a Meaningless Existence, an exploration and
I think this is at Barnes and Nobles.
distillation of philosophy, psychology, and literature
I feel like I
designed
saw
to
this
change the
somewhere.
way you think. The link for it is in the description.
How long ago was this?
Aldous
10
Huxley
months.
is perhaps one of the most prophetic and unsettling writers of the 20th century.
Bohr has said about Huxley is that Huxley is a man that has read many things but not lived many things. And I think that was the greatest explanation of his writing because I love the idea of Huxley, but I don't love reading him, if that makes sense. Like, he's very interesting points, but it's almost like Kierkegaard. Like, I don't enjoy it while I'm actually reading it. I enjoy thinking about the things that he puts forward. I think the idea of Brave New World is it's genius, but I don't want to reread it. Like, I don't want to reread The Doors of Perception or The Perennial Philosophy because it's like it's not it's not as interesting as thinking about it. I don't know how to say it aside from that.
Perhaps of all of modern history.
Huxley's so weird too because he's not like really elitist, but like his uncle is like one of the most famous scientists of all time and one of the biggest proponents of like this materialistic atheist sort of worldview. He literally coined the term agnostic. Like he's very much in that like social hierarchy of like English royalty, but like he's also a black sheep because he wrote an entire book about psychedelics and his psychedelic experience, and he's not afraid to put these ideas out there. And that's the thing with him and Orwell is like they both went to is it Oxford or Cambridge? They went to one of those institutions, and that's why they were able to predict these things because they were in class with the people that were enacting these sorts of ideas. They were seeing where society was headed because they were in these elite classrooms of the future leaders that were telling them exactly what was going to happen. It's something that's not pointed out. Like people like say like Orwell or Huxley are prophetic. It's like no, they were actually in the room with these people that were saying they were going to do these things before they were going to do it.
He sits alongside George Orwell in the scope, accuracy, and eeriness of his assessments, predictions, and warnings about what
So if you're not familiar with Brave New World, you should be at least familiar with 1984. But Brave New World is different from 1984 because 1984, the party rules through force and fear and anxiety, where with Huxley, which is much more analogous to our world, the powers that be rule through distraction. That people are so comfortable they don't realize that they're in chains. And it's completely self-imposed because it's been made so easy to be enslaved. It's been made so easy to not pay attention to things, to not have any sort of passion for things.
was to potentially come of the modern Western world, how technology, progress, and power would increasingly rub up against freedom, truth, and human meaning. His work poses questions about what it means to be free, to desire truth and meaning, to be consequential and connected, and it warns about how easily humans can and will sacrifice these things in the name of comfort, pleasure, and order.
Think like the Patriot Act is the best example. It's like people gave up their freedoms out of the guise of safety. Same thing with the lockdowns. People gave up a lot of freedoms that were never rolled back. Think of like the contact tracing. That technology exists now because of that thing. It's like it's very insidious when you start to see these patterns and you start to see them repeating. Like there's no putting the cat back in the bag. Is that the saying? I think it is. I hope I'm just making up sayings that make no fucking sense and expecting you guys to understand them. But you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. I know that's a saying. I must be getting tired or something because my brain's just not like I'm saying things and I'm like that sounded so weird. But you once this technology is used, you can't have it not be used again. You know, once the nuclear bomb was used once, now that fear is always out there because we see the destruction of it. Once Sherman had the March to the Sea, well, civilians were a very useful form of persuasion in military sort of endeavors. It's very scary.
Often without even realizing it. The American author and educator Neil Postman compared the fears of Huxley to the fears of Orwell. Orwell feared those who would deprive us of information. Huxley feared those who would give us so much that we would be reduced to passivity and egoism.
Huxley feared those who would give us so much that we'd be reduced to passivity and egoism. Everything you could ever hope to learn is on the internet, is in books, and it's pretty much free or very inexpensive to go find. But people would rather care about, oh, is Bad Bunny's halftime show better than Kid Rock's? It's like you guys are idiots. You could listen to Bino ramble for 2 more hours. At this rate, you're going to, because I'm gonna lose track of time and it's gonna be like 12 by the time I sign off. Um, but eh, things that are deep, things that are insightful or aren't incentivized. Like I talk to people and I say things to people, and they're like, "Are you a conspiracy theorist?" And I'm literally just talking about the JFK assassination and the weird details that don't make any sense, and they're calling me a word that's been like anyone that says conspiracy theorist, like is you're gonna buy the CIA propaganda, the word that they invented to cover up their own tracks for JFK. But it's you can literally cite actual things that happen that are public record, but they won't even look it up because there's no incentive to. What's the incentive to have my worldview broken? What's the incentive to have my entire perspective on the world fractured? What's my incentive to go look things up and not be part of the pack? It's very weird. Like the things that are rewarded on the internet are degeneracy, are idiocracy, are think of how many views the prank videos get, or like the what is his name? Vitaly, the guy that just got out of jail, like all like the catching the predator videos. Like that's that gets the most views, and it's like that should say a lot about your society. Like, you know, you could tell the state of a society based off of their culture, based off of their art, based off of what's incentivized. Think of the music that's popular. It's horrible. It lacks any depth. It lacks any meaning. Go back and listen to the Beatles. Go back to listen to the older rock or even the older rap music, like the message. There was something behind it. It was talking about something. It was important. There was depth to it. Tupac in some songs he's talking about hoes and money and guns and stuff, but in other songs he's talking about a real social message, whether you agree with it or not. But like, there's something to it. There's depth to it. There's art to it. There's artistry to it. And now there's nothing. And that's really what Huxley's talking about. Huxley in Brave New World, the movies are so fantastical. It's shooting, it's guns, it's sex, it's drugs, it's all sort of stuff. They're sitting in the chairs and the chairs are moving according to the movie. And he's doing this in, I think, 1932 is when he's predicting all this stuff. And it's almost like eerily haunting that Huxley's predictions on the type of media that would be consumed in the future is. And it's almost haunting that he said that these forms of media have absolute control over the people's minds, and they don't even understand that they've been reduced to lower than humans.
Orwell feared that the truth would be concealed from us. Huxley feared the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance.
Huxley feared the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. Is that not what we see on the internet? We also see both. Most of these things are yes and. Like, there's an element of Orwell. There's an element of you can't say certain things or you'd be ostracized from society. And then there's an element of you're not incentivized to explore these things or research these things because there's all of this really fast-paced content that will make you so much happier, and you'll get instant fulfillment instead of having to spend years to get the same sort of inspiration from Dante. It's that sort of idea of
Orwell
things.
feared we would become a captive culture. Huxley feared we would become a trivial culture, preoccupied with some equivalent of the feelies, the
It's both.
orgy-porgy, and the centrifugal bumble puppy. In short, Orwell feared that what we hate will ruin us. Huxley feared that what we love will ruin us. Huxley was born in 1894 in Godalming, England. As a child, he was immediately exposed to high-level scientific thinking, as his grandfather, T.H. Huxley, was a famous biologist.
Like, I only know this because I was reading some book and I saw like cite Huxley, and then I was doing some research on Aldous Huxley, and I'm like, wait, they were definitely citing his uncle because it was something completely unrelated to anything Huxley ever wrote about. I was like, why is he being cited in this more scientific piece? It was weird to me.
Who worked with Charles Darwin and coined the term agnostic. This would surely be influential on Aldous, likely contributing to his initial interest in science and his
Huxley interestingly went blind too. There's a lot of like really great authors that went blind. Think of Homer, I think of Borges, Milton went blind as well. There's a really weird correlation to a lot of my favorite authors are blind. Maybe it's gonna happen to me.
later
Hopefully
perceptiveness
not.
around the implications of scientific progress, particularly the developing overlap of psychology and technology. In adolescence, Huxley initially wanted to be a doctor. However, after contracting an eye disease, he essentially went blind for around 3 years, and his hopes of a career in medicine abruptly ended. Though surely devastating to
So Huxley, he said something in an interview. I think it was an interview. It was either an interview or he wrote it somewhere, but now I'm second guessing myself. I don't know why. But he said something along the lines of, is technology really helping us? Is technology really for the benefit of man? Or is it in some way reducing us? And this is such an interesting question because are we really better off than we were before? And in certain ways, yes. In certain ways, technology is always just going to progress. Medicine gets better, surgery gets better, sanitation gets better, transportation gets better. Like, but it always has drawbacks. Social media has come at the expense of everyone's mental health. Social media has come at the expense of any sort of meaningful conversation. Everything's now summed up. Everything's now just a headline. That's all people read. There's no such thing as nuance anymore. Everyone's in their own echo chamber. Everyone sees the world in a fractured lens because they're getting their own individual news pumped into their brain, and they're being convinced of a certain entirely different worldview from the one that actually exists. That sort of thing. And it's like is that really better, or would we be better off if we, you know, could only talk to the people around us, could only converse with the people around us? Like, it's never been easier to talk to someone across the world, but how often are those conversations not just spurging online about internet drama? Like it's like a double-edged sword.
Huxley at the time, one clearly never knows the bad news from the good news. One bout of illness in one person can change the world forever. Instead of pursuing medicine,
Seems more relevant than ever. Dude, the craziest prediction that Huxley made, and again, I don't want to like call him like a prophet or like, this is prophetic or anything. Like, he was literally in these elite schools where these people were talking about this kind of stuff. But I don't know if he knew exactly how accurate this was going to be, because in the story, Brave New World, everyone when they're unhappy takes prescription medication, and it's called Soma, and maybe there's a meaning behind it. I never looked it up, but basically, if you want to be happy, you just take this drug, and then if you want to fall asleep, you take this drug as well. And it's like he's literally talking about the overuse of prescription drugs and how people are going to be made to not feel anything, and people are going to intuitively sense that something is wrong, but they're going to mask it with pharmaceutical intervention. It is the craziest thing ever to me, and it's like, how could you predict this 100 years in the past? Like, this was before big pharma had became so imminent and so important in the lives of so many people, in a bad way. You know what I mean? It's very weird.
Huxley would go on to enroll in Balliol College, Oxford, where he would study English literature and begin writing poetry and short stories.
He was he's 100% gonna say it, but he was George Orwell's like tutor for a little bit, and they weren't friends or anything. They never really connected after the fact. And it's kind of sad because I'd be interested to have like a dialogue, a back and forth, and it'd be interesting to see how they viewed each other's works, because they really have two of the best predictions on how the world would be formed after, World War II, after all of the other various Cold War, proxy war stuff, and we're seeing their novels play out in real time, and that's really the scariest aspect of it. But basically, after Orwell wrote 1984, Huxley sent him a letter. I was about to say an email, but this was way before emails. He sent him a letter saying, "This is a great work. It's phenomenal." And more or less, what he said is, "You had the benefit of seeing World War II, so your prediction was better than mine, because I did not yet see the rise of fascism and totalitarianism, and I wasn't able to predict it. And because of this, your work was better than mine." It was very interesting. It was very nice giving someone else their flowers. It's a sign of maturity.
Following his degree, he taught French at Eton College. As if fate was again trying to prove itself, one of Huxley's students was George Orwell. Following teaching,
I always predicted right before.
Huxley spent a short time at a chemical plant. This would have a profound impact on him. He later described what he experienced as an ordered universe in a world of planless incoherence. The chemical plant was, for him, a microcosmic representation of the society forming around it, a society increasingly hell-bent on perfect order and technological advancement in spite of human experience.
And you could see a lot of this distaste for bureaucracy in Huxley's work.
A society that focused on mass production and output. A society where human identities began and ended with their roles in the process of said production. A society in which individuals were increasingly produced and managed in the same manner as the assembly lines and technologies that they operated.
It's like I think Huxley read Gurdjieff as well, so I'm pretty sure this is a very profound meaning on him, because essentially what Gurdjieff says is his main point is man is a machine. And what he means by this is that, think of how many things you do on a daily basis that are unconscious, that you're not aware of, that you do simply out of habit. You go to work, you tie your shoes, you drive, you do this, you do that, you do things that you don't even think about, and you allow your mind to just go away, and you lose entire parts of your day. Like, I honestly hate that I read Gurdjieff recently, because now every time I go on my phone and I waste 10 minutes, I'm like, I just disappeared for 10 minutes. And I'm aware that like I lost attention. I'm aware that I lost consciousness. I'm aware that I lost a part of myself. I lost an aspect of myself because I fell victim to habit. I fell victim to the mechanicalness of my nature.
Huxley's experience at the plant, alongside his developing views of the modern world in general, would ultimately form the foundation for what he would go on to explore in his masterpiece, Brave New World. The novel Brave New World was published.
This is his most well-known work. Um, Huxley wrote a lot of different stuff, though. He wrote philosophy, he wrote essays, he wrote um, plays, short stories. He also wrote a response to this novel, which is it's called Island, and it's kind of his integration of the spiritual nature of man with the technological advancements of man. And it's very interesting. And one of the key points that I want you to remember, even if you don't read this book, this is the most important part of the book. There's birds that fly around the island and they just yell attention, 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 denoting the importance of your attention, denoting your conscious effort to stay present in everything you're doing and how this is really determinative of everything. If you allow your mind to become unconscious, if you allow your mind to drift, then you lose your greatest ability, which is to direct yourself, which is to think, which is to not fall victim to propaganda, not fall victim to other people's wills. To be aware of yourself in every moment is to be in control of yourself in every moment.
Published in 1932. By this point, Huxley had published several other works of literature and had become increasingly engaged in various intellectual and artistic circles of the time. In the novel, we primarily follow the main characters, Bernard Marx, Lenina Crown, John the Savage, and Helmholtz Watson, as they navigate a future dystopian.
It's so funny too, because the guy that they call the Savage literally just cites Shakespeare the whole time. And he's considered the Savage, but he's really the most developed and the most mature out of any of them and the most well-adjusted actual human being. And it just goes to show that like what Huxley is saying is that he's considered savage because he doesn't fall victim to the whims of society. He doesn't fall to the mass propaganda and the mass control and being like everyone else and doing everything that everyone else does. He's his own person, but he's considered a savage for that. He's considered an outcast.
Global society known as the World State. While visiting a reservation outside the World State, Bernard and Lenina encounter a woman who was left behind on a previous trip, named Linda, and her son John, who was born and has lived on the reservation his entire life. Bernard brings Linda and John back to London with him, the heart of the World State, essentially to spite a high-ranking administrator who had abandoned Linda and was unknowingly and lewdly John's father, as well as to improve his own social and career standing and ultimately acquire more from society. Once in London, however, John soon goes against Bernard's efforts, and his focus turns toward understanding and subsequently criticizing and revolting against the world state. His values, which he primarily formed from his exposure to Shakespeare and experiences outside the world state, cause him to find the society entirely hollow and vapid at best. This divide between him and the state become a.
And it's really interesting how he's able to juxtapose this individual because he's probably self-inserting himself. It's probably what it is. Huxley is putting himself in a world and exaggerating its kind of mechanicalness and kind of its coldness and hollowness, and he's kind of putting himself through this character.
Key point of contrast used to put forth the brilliant and challenging philosophical questions asked by the novel. In the world state, everything is perfectly ordered, structured, stable, and, on the surface, very pleasant. Everyone is happy. Citizens are born through an artificial process in a hatchery, where embryos are treated differently in order to alter individuals' bodies and minds and predetermine their caste.
The scariest part of this to me was that as these kids were born and raised, a constant repetition of their social status was played into their ears as they slept. That you belong to this, so you're this. You belong to this, so you're worse than this. You do. It's so creepy, and it's so weird because like you could tell Huxley really understood hypnosis and the idea of repetition of a message creates that message. There's something Napoleon said is if you what's attributed to Napoleon. Nobody knows if he actually said it, but if you want to make somebody believe something, just repeat it enough times. And anytime you hear somebody repeating something, anytime you hear someone on the news telling you a certain thing, be very weary of it because it is hypnosis. It's very low level hypnosis, but it is hypnosis.
Caste and function in society. Everyone is more or less the same in their caste, and everyone is conditioned to be content and suitable in their caste. Conflict, dysfunction, and dissatisfaction are thus minimized. Homogeneity is prioritized.
There's like a saying in it too that everyone belongs to everyone else. And essentially what it is like there's a very like liberated and free society where there's no such thing as monogamy or relationships. And when everyone belongs to everyone else, that you really just belong to the state. That's what it is. It takes away individuality. It takes away your oneness. It takes away your uniqueness, and it makes you part of a collective. Ayn Rand wrote a really I don't really agree with Ayn Rand on a lot of stuff. She's crazy. She very interesting woman. But she wrote Anthem, and Anthem I think is probably the best explanation of this idea where, you know, human beings have gotten to this stage where they're so part of the collective that they forgot the word I. And the entire book until the very end, sorry I spoiled it, but the main character uses the word we to describe himself because it's become so ingrained in himself that he's not an individual, that he's part of something else, that he's the hive mind, that he's the collective.
In daily life, pleasures and entertainments abound. If anyone isn't happy, they are quickly reminded to take the drug, soma, which evokes euphoria and pleasant hallucinations. The world's stable now. People are happy. They get what they want, and they never want what they can't get. And if anything should go wrong, there's soma.
This is the drug I was talking about earlier too. It's called soma. And this is like in all of our metrics, this would be considered like a utopia. But in fact, it's a dystopia. Because if you try to get it's like that I hate to cite this movie because I hate this whole stupid like, oh, you're blue pill, oh, you're this, you're that. Like, I think the whole concept of taking a pill is stupid. Like, I don't take drugs. Come on, it's not. It's just dumb. It's dumb how we use that way of just describing it. But like, or actually, it's the Matrix too. When the I forget the guy's name, but it's the guy that like created the Matrix. Where Neo talks to him, he's like, "Yeah, this is actually like the second Matrix or whatever." I can't remember how many it is, but more or less what he says is like, "We created a Matrix, and everyone got absolutely everything they wanted, and they revolted because what's the point of getting everything you wanted? It makes it boring. You become bored so fast with it because you go out there, you do everything they want to do, and then what? And it's like it's almost like it's a horror. It's almost like it's hell. You're stuck in a place where you get everything you wanted, and there's no purpose for striving. There's no reason to do anything, and that's kind of what Huxley's saying is like we don't want perfection. We obviously want everyone to have good stuff, but like to seek perfection is to take away all individuality, is to make life meaningless.
Said the world controller, Mustafa Mond, to John. In the world state, everything is set up perfectly for continuous stability and constant happiness. It is essentially the perfect outcome of a successful social utopia. And yet, it is deeply unsettling. Freedom, identity, depth, and expression are fundamentally lost. Or rather, they are no longer even relevant or necessary. Individuals only have value insofar as they can provide utility to the societal machine. Love is shallow. Monogamy and family are condemned, obsolete. Everyone
Think who said it? I think it was Camus that said it, but progress when you put the society before the individual, then it comes at the expense of the individual. And you can't have a great society without great individuals. And that was one of the most interesting ways I've ever heard it put. And I think there's really something fascinating in this because like if everything was so perfect, then we wouldn't have Teslas, and we wouldn't have Einsteins, and we wouldn't have people that push the envelope because there wouldn't be the circumstances to create these people. There wouldn't be any sort of outside the box thinking. There wouldn't be any sort of creativity. There wouldn't be any sort of inventions. I can't remember who said this, but somebody said that they loosely quoted Einstein saying that all inventions are from a creative that then proves it through science. That they're all intuited and then proven through mathematics.
One belongs to everyone else, which citizens repeat as part of their social conditioning. Everyone is not only a bolt on the societal machine, but also an output and product of it, to be used and consumed. Happiness in the form of pleasure takes precedence over depth and complexity, and so, like so many other aspects of life, love and expression and connection are no longer necessary. Why make art? Why love deeply?
The one thing Huxley got wrong is that the cars fly, which they don't do.
Why contemplate existence? And why strive for change when there's nothing to struggle over or for, nothing to uniquely share, when you and everyone are finally happy? That's the price we have to pay for stability. You've got to choose between happiness and what people used to call high art. Actual happiness always looks pretty squalid in comparison with the overcompensations for misery. And of course, stability isn't nearly so spectacular as instability, and being contented has none of the glamour of a good fight against misfortune.
This is like these quotes. I think it sums it up
None of the
perfectly.
picturesqueness of a
Everything I was trying
struggle
to
with
say, sums it
temptation,
up.
or a fatal overthrow by passion or doubt. Happiness is never grand,
Happiness is never grand.
continued
Wow.
Mond to John. At the time of writing Brave New World, Huxley was not extraordinarily concerned about any sort of similar dystopia unfolding onto the real world anytime soon. In fact, the novel was initially written largely as a parody of other popular utopian novels of the time,
I
which
actually didn't know that. Wow, I really didn't know that. Because that's even crazier that he wrote it as almost a joke and it became true. So I always thought he was trying to make some sort of points in here, but I mean it's somewhat that are unconscious motivations kind of ring true more than anything else. That like, a great work of art has so many more layers to it because it's not just what the author actually tried to do, but it's the underpinning that really creates the depth. Like I'm sure there's a lot of things in Ulysses that Joyce wrote but wasn't consciously trying to say that's been experienced by people who've read it.
Huxley found abhorrent. He wrote, "They evoked in me an almost pathological reaction in the direction of cynical anti-idealism, so much so that, before I finished, I had resolved to write a derisive parody of this most optimistic of utopias." Huxley did see the
Oh,
importance
okay. So he's tearing down utopias. That makes sense then. So he's not doing it seriously as like to kind of say this is where we're going, but just make fun of the intellectuals that think we could ever get to a utopia. That makes sense. Okay.
of the subject and the implications of what was essentially underpinning such utopian ideas, the sort of idealism that viewed technological and scientific progress as definitively moving toward a perfect, enlightened future. He saw the likelihood of this increasingly popular attitude and the modes with which it was being carried out, leading to some form of a brave new world, if left unchecked, but just in a more distant future. However, later in his life, he began to change his mind about this. He wrote, "In 1931, when Brave New World was being written, I was convinced that there was still plenty of time. The complete
Imagine writing this and you see it come true in real time. I can't even imagine the horror. I'd be like, did I just give them the playbook to do exactly what I was afraid
completely
of?
organized society, the scientific caste system, the abolition of free will by methodical conditioning, the servitude made acceptable by regular doses of chemically induced happiness, the orthodoxies drummed in by nightly courses of sleep teaching. These things were coming all right, but not in my time, not even in the time
Think like falling asleep to the TV is now like some people need to do that. I've slowly become better over time. I used to need to fall asleep to videos. Now I turn the videos off before I fall asleep. Am I in New York City? I'm not in New York City. I live here, and once a week I go to the New York Philosophy Club for philosophical discussions, a large group. That's cool. Maybe I'll do that at some point. I mean, I can get to it. It's not fast, but I can get there. All right, I'll look into that. It's cool. I don't like philosophy though. That's the thing. A lot of what I talk about is philosophy, but I don't Like the academic side to me is just it gets really boring because it's just like it's very linear, it's very this or that, and it doesn't really tend to get into metaphysics, which is what I find the most fascinating, which I find the most of my thought is focused on. And it kind of dismisses people like Gurdjieff or Emerson or people that really speak. You know what I mean? Talk about topics about life. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. Oh, not about philosophy. Okay, thank God. Dude, because anytime like I can't even watch discussions about philosophers. I can't even read interpretations of philosophy. I can't even read philosophy anymore at this point because it just says the same thing every time. It's just, oh, I created this system that makes the world perfect, and if you think this, then oh, your life could be better. It's like, how many times can you read the same thing without becoming bored? Like, I read Nietzsche and I'm like, oh, this sounds like Schopenhauer. I start reading Hegel and I'm like, this is just Plato. I start reading, like, my conception of Kant is literally just he tried to emulate Plato. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? No, that's cool though. I'll look into it.
Time of my grandchildren. 27 years later, I feel a good
I'm so much more interested in like poetry and fiction now, just because there's a certain element of humanity that you can't capture through anything but a story. Or in poetry's case, there's things that happen in between the lines that are so much more fascinating than what happens in them. It's every Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Different locations. And okay, okay, that's cool. I'll look at that.
deal less optimistic than I did when I was writing Brave New World. The prophecies made in 1931 are coming true much sooner than I thought they would.
Hashtag continental philosophy. What is continental philosophy?
The nightmare of
I don't
total
know any of these
organization
words.
has emerged from the safe, remote future and is now awaiting us just around the next corner. Part of what had drawn concern out of Huxley was the advancing knowledge of psychology in the early to mid 20th century. In particular, the work of the American psychologist B.F. Skinner.
Honestly, I don't think most of these psychologists are like nefarious. Like, I mean, Freud had like the big scandal, but like even like Gustave Le Bon, like you can read that and you're like, oh God, it's like some crazy person gets this, it's gonna be bad, and it did end up being bad. Like he inspired a lot of weirdos like Bernays and other people like that. But like I think a lot of them are somewhat just want to lay out the way that the mind works and somewhat philosophically and evaluated. And same thing with Jung. Jung doesn't really seem like he was trying to do anything except kind of explore his own mind and tell other people about it so that they could somewhat understand it as well. But then you have like weirdos that just take these ideas and run with them and use them to take advantage of it. It's so weird.
And his theory of operant conditioning, as well as Ivan Pavlov and his theory of classical conditioning. Fundamentally, operant conditioning is a method of learning and changing behaviors based on rewards and punishments. Part of what Skinner's work notably showcased is that
And think you follow a set of patterns in school and you get rewarded for a set of patterns in school, and then it creates a better worker. Think of how the school system's set up, not to make creatives, not to make people that think, but to make people that listen. You're smart enough to do your task, but not smart enough to ask why I'm doing this task. Why is this person making 10,000 times myself? Like that sort of thing.
positive reinforcements tend to lead to stronger and longer-term changes in behavior compared to negative reinforcements. This knowledge, along with the technologically advancing world that was increasing political access to citizens and citizens to pleasure and entertainment, caused Huxley to become increasingly concerned about the kinds of weapons that could and would be used to control, organize, and ostensibly sedate citizens. Unlike the threats of violence and direct force, with weapons of conditioning and pleasure, Huxley feared individuals would likely not
It's easier to, wow, what's I? You got the saying. Something it's easier to catch something with honey. Ah, why is my brain not working right now? This ruined it.
even recognize that there was a weapon pointed at their heads. Worse, they would likely grow to love it, to desire it. He said, "There will be in the next generation or so a pharmacological method of making people love their servitude and producing dictatorship without tears, so to speak, producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies so that people will in fact have their
I think we have freedom of speech, but does anyone use it for anything aside from saying horrible things on the internet? You know what I mean? It's like freedom of speech doesn't matter because we don't have freedom of our own thoughts. Everything that we think, everything that we act out is all a controlled message, is all a controlled point, is all to benefit this cause or this cause or this. Like we know so little about ourselves that we can't even express ourselves.
liberties taken away from them, but will rather enjoy it." How accurate Huxley's predictions were for today's and tomorrow's world is up for debate and interpretation. But one cannot deny the fact that, at the very least,
I think Huxley got down perfectly the distraction nature of things. Think of when somebody's like, "Oh, I just want good escapism. I just want good Marvel movies. I just want good this. I just want good that." It's like you've already admitted defeat. It's like, what are you escaping? What are you trying to get away from? What are you trying to avoid? It's like
in the 21st century, we find some of Huxley's fears, questions, and prophecies emerge, at least in a symbolic sense. We might personally find some of his fears in our habits, in our daily lives, in our societal roles, in our desires, in our identities, and what we are and are not aware of. And in a broader sense, we can see the increasingly rampant use and apparent need for various drugs and intoxicants, both prescription and recreational.
think of like people that need. I'm so bad about caffeine. I really need to quit. Like I get headaches if I don't have caffeine, and I'm not even doing anything. Like it's not even like, oh, I'm taking caffeine so that I could stay up and do this and no, I just need caffeine so I don't have a headache. Like it's just it's so bad. But like for years I had it ingrained in me that like I need caffeine in the morning. I need to get going, and it's like it's become my body like aches if I don't have it. It's so horrible.
We can see that with what has gone from radios to TVs to computers to smartphones to whatever is next. The opportunity for simple pleasure and simple escape has only become increasingly available and pervasive. Information and entertainment, often mindless and obscene, flood the streets, destroying previously built structures of alleged truth and clarity. What is left behind is a sort of complacency, a nihilism.
If you want to see Huxley's biggest fear in action, just watch any Mr. Beast video. That is like the levels of dopamine hit that those things like those infographics give you is on par with any sort of casino slot machine. It's actually crazy how like a lot of like the casino slot machines were literally just they took psychologists who were like, okay, how can we make this as addictive as possible? And then a lot of these things became rolled out in television and entertainment in general. And it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship that like gambling's pushed now through entertainment. Like you can't watch any sort of sports game without seeing some sort of gambling ad. It's awful. Um, any like any sort of influencer, no matter what kind of influencer they are, they have a gambling sponsor. It's so insane to me. Um, but the craziest thing I learned, and I don't think I've ever said this on stream, there's this book that I need to get. It's called How to Hypnotize Yourself and Others. And something it says in that is it's very scary because anytime you're watching TV and like any sort of like graphic pops up on the screen, what that does to you is it hacks your fight or flight and it makes you really read that right away and make you really like something in you like you have to read it and it's important and it captures your attention. It's so terrifying when you think about it. The more you think about that and the more you notice it, you're like, this is evil. Like maybe there's something to the people that are saying TV and your phone are evil. Like there's something very insidious in it.
A void of meaning. And, with continued flooding appearing imminent, rebuilding seems almost futile. And so, what do? We jump in the floodwaters, floating on the surface in our inflatable tubes, cocktails of substance in one hand, and a phone or whatever else in the other. We don't become happy about the destruction. We forget there is any. Perhaps slightly deviating from Huxley's views and Brave New World, the cause and process by which these qualities of society have come to be is not simple, obvious, or easily
And it's not even so much like that it's orchestrated. There's obviously some campaigns to orchestrate stuff, but it's more so just like human nature in seeking out comfort and seeking out the easy path. Like think of it this way, it's a biological survival mechanism. It's like your body isn't going to use energy it doesn't have to. You know, you have so much energy stored up, you have so much in your fight or flight, and you think when you do like adrenaline dump and you're really tired after, it's because you really expended all that extra energy. And there's ways to prime your nervous system so that you can get more out of your nervous system. Think of like a elite power lifter. Like a lot of times the power lifters, they're strong, obviously, but like there's people that are just as strong, but they haven't primed their nervous system. They haven't trained to activate their nervous system in such a way so that they're not as they don't put up as much numbers. Like you always hear those stories of like a mother lifting up a car so that she could save her baby. Like that sort of thing is possible, but it's just your body doesn't want to use that energy. Your body wants to conserve that energy. And a lot of your function, a lot of your habits are to conserve energy. And it's that we don't have to fight against nature anymore. We don't have to fight against prey anymore. We don't have to do anything difficult anymore. So it, in some way, prevents us from developing, in some way, prevents us from going out there and facing things, going out there and developing the skills, going out there and having our attention and having these things that we otherwise would have, but because we haven't had to develop them, we don't have them.
pinpointed onto any sort of isolated groups, rulers, or goals. Is the state of essentially the entire modern world more likely to be the result of the intentional and perfectly executed psychological direction by the few, or the result of the increasingly unrestrained and capitalistically facilitated impulses of the many?
As things get easier, it gets harder for us to deal with because there's a certain need for humans to fight. There's a certain need for humans to suffer and struggle. And I'm not talking about like get beat up, but like to go against the world, to go against things, to develop some sort of proficiency, to develop some sort of status, to develop some sort of, as Nietzsche said, the will to power, the ability to control your world, the ability to exact your will in the world.
Or at least a proportional combination of both. Perhaps it is merely convenient for rulers and societies how life and psychology work on their own. Perhaps it is all the more convenient to occasionally know how to tap into it, even if only seldomly with success. B.F. Skinner famously used rats in his early research on operant conditioning. He put hungry rats in a box that contained a lever on the side, and as
I always hate to hear about these like animal experiences. Like, dude, how many animals had to die for you to come up with the most basic understanding of human nature? You could literally just look at these things and understand that, oh yeah, humans are going to enjoy comfort and become lesser versions of themselves from it. It's like you don't need to kill a bunch of rats. It's like that one study Fauci did where he killed a bunch of beagles. I still haven't forgiven him for that. I don't even think that's as bad as everything else he did. I think that's the worst thing he did.
the rats moved around the box and accidentally knocked the lever, a food pellet would drop into a container. Soon the rats would begin to intentionally hit the lever over and over. The experiment clearly demonstrates how behavior can be changed through reinforcement, and, in this case, manipulated by intention.
Like again, why do you need to like make rats determine like can't you just read any history book? Can't you just like observe people like at a supermarket or at a coffee like that's what doesn't make any sense to me about most of these studies is like most of them you could just like think about. Like I have a friend that has like a oh he's not really he's like a acquaintance that I like see every once in a while, but he's like a published paper. And it's like literally you could just intuitively understand what he spent 40 pages to write. And it was I'm not gonna I'm not gonna give you the exact thing because it's kind of embarrassing that he had to even like write this and get it published. But like it was basically along the lines of like, oh, instead of measuring something with like a ruler or a tape measure or anything else, if we use 3D printing, we could come up with exact measurements. Like if we used CAD models, we could approximate so much easier. And it's like, yeah, think about it. What's going to be more precise? CAD modeling where you can go in all sorts of dimensions, or literally using a ruler. What?
But the natural world, the box in which we have all been dropped in, is not an isolated experiment. There is no fundamental or first cause individual or group that is running the show other than perhaps the very substrate force of evolution. We are all compelled, rulers and citizens, by forces outside our control and understanding, each of us awaking into arbitrary roles as part of the construction and experimentation, hungry and yearning. The only difference is perhaps, with humans, we have found ways to make levers and pellets available everywhere, all the time.
It's like that one video of all the old people in either Atlantic City or Vegas, and they're like smacking the thing as hard as they can. They're like ripping the lever. Dude, those are like the saddest videos because you just know like somebody's like mortgaging their house on like the hope that their slot machine is gonna win. It's really so depressing.
How could we not all become preoccupied with levers and pellets? There's a saying that, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Perhaps likewise, if all you have is desire, everything looks like a lever. Regardless of how we arrived here, regardless of the conditions of the particular time and society we were born into, on an individual level, we all find ourselves with the same basic questions. The same questions Huxley and Brave New World asked. What is one willing to give up for pleasure, for comfort, for happiness, for order?
Are you willing to give up your freedom? Are you willing to give up your soul for the sake of comfort? I think it's like the Faustian bargain. It's like I can give you everything you want, but you have to give me your soul. That's essentially what you're doing. It's you know, you don't have to think of selling your soul to the devil as like this grand thing. It's like it's the little things we do on a daily basis that take us away from ourselves. It's the decisions we make out of fear that prevent us from being ourselves, that's really selling your soul. Because you gave up your morality, you gave up your sense of self for the sake of some external goal. And nothing is worth yourself. Nothing is worth your soul. Nothing is worth what you are.
For social cohesion, what is one willing to give up for freedom, for truth, for uniqueness, for art, for love? Would you trade truth for happiness? Would you trade freedom? What is the value of anything if not happiness and feeling good? What makes happiness and goodness real, and why? In Brave New World, for John, a world without conflict, a world where mostly everyone is the same, a world of perfect order and unending happiness, is a world that is fundamentally at odds with the nature of being and our truest desires.
Again, it's this idea of wow, we're coming full circle here. With Heraclitus said that you need to experience suffering so that you could experience happiness. The only way that you experience any sort of meaning is through going something through something difficult.
Deep down, desire for independent free thinking, for truth, for identity, for deeper meaning, for art, for love, for struggle. For him, a life worth living is born from the insemination of pleasant and unpleasant experiences, constantly knocking against each other. In the words of John, I don't want comfort. I want God. I want poetry. I want real danger. I want freedom. I want goodness. I want sin.
That's a that's a tremendous quote because he wraps so many different aspects into this. It's I want to I don't want comfort. I want to question why I'm alive. I want to question purpose. I don't want comfort. I want poetry where you have to read in between the lines, where it's not just handed to you, where you have to develop yourself so that you can understand what this person's trying to say. You have to feel what they're trying to put across. I want real danger. I want to experience the idea that I could face something that I can't overcome. If there's no danger, then there's no reason to develop yourself. There's no reason to go out there and to fight. I want freedom. What is freedom? Freedom is the idea that you can go out there and do everything. But if you're so comfortable, you're not going to break free. If you're so comfortable that you're going to stick where you are because it's human nature to stay exactly the same, to not sacrifice your comfort for the sake of your freedom. I want goodness. Where does any sense of goodness come from? You know, are you really noble if you're giving money to charity for how it makes you seem because it's the social convention when you're rich because you can write it off on your taxes? Or are you good because you gave money to a charity and you really shouldn't have given that money to charity, but you think that there's people that are less fortunate and you can benefit them, you can help them out. I want sin, and this is really where one of the most salient points that Huxley's making is that your capacity to do wrong, your capacity to do evil is what makes being good something valuable, what makes being good something meaningful. Because if I could only be good, then there's no it's oh, okay, nice job. You did a good deed. Whereas if you have the capacity to do wrong and you do good in spite of that, you go against your own nature, you go against your own self-serving nature, you self-sacrifice for the sake of somebody else, then you really did something nice. You really did something noble.
In the end,
It's like the idea of original sin. Original sin is seen as a bad thing, but if we were born without sin, then we're born perfect. And if we're born perfect, then there's no reason to live.
struggle, pain, uncertainty, and sacrifice are unavoidable. It is only what the pain and struggle and sacrifice are for that can be considered, determined, and fought for in each of us. Huxley brilliantly and perceptively reminds us, warns us, to consider carefully what we want to sacrifice when the modern world asks us in every moment with increasing fervor. In Huxley's final work, Island, published 1 year before his
I mentioned this earlier. This is really his response to Brave New
passing
World.
in 1963, we find an island comprising a more optimistic and hopeful utopia built on honest connection and love and learning and spirituality. We also perhaps find Huxley's last and most potent insight for dealing with the problems of a brave new world, shared by the birds
Damn it, I said it. I always spoil it.
on the island. On this island, birds call out a frequent reminder to the inhabitants. Attention, attention, here and now, boys. Here and now.
When you have attention, when you have focus, when you have control of yourself in each and every moment, you have control of yourself. But when you allow yourself to drift, when you allow yourself to slip, and you fall victim to other people's whims, you're going to be directed in one way. You're going to be thinking in one way. And let it be consciously your thoughts than unconsciously someone else's thoughts. Because even me, I am in some way selling you something. I am in some way selling you some philosophy, some ideology. Like I don't outwardly say it, but unconsciously there's something in me that's like I want other people to think I'm smart because my way of doing things makes them feel better. So in some way it makes my worldview stronger. It makes me feel better about myself. Like you know what I mean? Like even if it's something passive like that, even if it's something somewhat benevolent like that, like you're being guided in a certain direction. And if you don't have control of your thoughts, if you're not conscious of the direction your thoughts are compelling you, or you're being pushed, or you're being influenced, then you don't have control of your life. Everything stems from thought. Your thoughts manifest in actions, and your actions manifest in reality. And that's why most of what I talk about is controlling your thoughts, of controlling your perception, controlling the frame in which you view the world, and the focus of what you put your time to.
If you enjoy and find value in learning about some of the greatest writers
All right, so that was a good video. I'm starting to get a headache. I was gonna keep going a little longer, but I feel like we have to build up to the longer and longer streams. This is the longest I've gone in like a year, I want to say. So I'll be back tomorrow. I don't know I'm not sure what time. I don't know if it'll be early or I don't know if it'll be late. I don't know. I'll put out a thing. Hopefully you guys see it. Hopefully you guys join again. But yeah, we had a nice long stream today. Sorry I didn't make it till 12. I didn't make it 2 extra hours when what Lori Ball was asking for, but yeah, this was a fun stream. I'll find some interesting videos to go through tomorrow. I'll actually check them, unlike the Realco one that I didn't really think I could put a good input on. But yeah, with that said, have a good rest of your night, guys. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys. Peace out. I will catch you in the next one.